Straight Talk Society. This is your host, Trevor, and I'm back with another episode of Straight Talk with Trevor.
Because the ladies from Pour Your Heart Out
no
will
topic
be over
is
here
off
to
limits.
join the panel.
Plus, but it's a must, you gon' respect this. Plus, your nuts will touch the dust, you try to check this. You ain't
The
insane,
MMA brothers, Bones and Zay, have pre and post shows to the MMA shows. And I am your host, Mr. Straight Talk, the man with the greatest beard on YouTube. Oh, I love throwing that in there. Real quick, I am back on Facebook. I guess they took me out of jail. I was able to connect the channel back.
Due to the increasing level of incompetence and the major lack of transparency, the Straight Talk Society will no longer maintain a presence on Facebook.
Make sure and hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Man Talk Monday. This is the flagship show of the Straight Talk Society. This is the show that you're going to get all your, drama topics. This is a show that you may get your arguments. This is a show where we're going to talk about not one specific thing, but we dabble around the world of pop culture and the men just banter about it. So that's what this show is. But if this show isn't for you, and I don't know why it wouldn't be, but we also have other shows. The highly acclaimed Tape Fist Politics, Venkat, Mike, MD, and Ricardo do such a fantastic job with that. That's every Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Hey, if that doesn't fancy your boat, then be sure to tune into Wrestling with Reality. Today we have the return of Straight Talk Therapy Sessions with the one and only Dr. Mia. So y'all be sure and tune into that. So tonight we have a fantastic show tonight, the Straight Talk Society. We will not go over that 2.5 hour mark. So Mike, you ain't got no shirt on, right?
I never have clothes on, bro.
But I'm saying you like right on the like crazy.
My bad. I don't like clothes, bro. Anybody that knows me, my fault.
Crazy.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Why? I want that.
Real authentic Jamaican street food. I just see you getting real cooking.
Wagwan.
Get the syrup. Did you know that, Michelle? Get the syrup. Slow it down now. Slow it down. Yeah, man. I'm going to take my glory when me creating myself and give Jesus. But the nice you always make now. But the nice guy don't want to work for you for dead dog. But the nice.
Monkeys.
Yeah, them place how we eat. And that's where you get the real flavor of the island.
We're gonna mash up this food,
Huh? We can make a dinner for people. A big dinner for like a whole family.
Yeah, but I am me some Doctor. What the What the heck? What the heck? I had my mouth. What the
Do you really believe that garbage?
It's not about believing, it's a matter of fact.
So you believe.
Can you say why America is the greatest country in the world?
Diversity and opportunity.
Lewis? Freedom and freedom. So let's keep it that way.
Well, why is America not the greatest country in the world, Professor? That's my answer. Straight face. You're going to tell students that America is so star-spangled awesome that we're the only ones in the world who have freedom? Canada has freedom. Japan has freedom. The UK, France, Italy, Germany, Spain, Australia, Belgium has freedom. So 207 sovereign states in the world, like 180 of them have freedom. All right. And yeah, you, sorority girl, just in case you accidentally wander into a voting booth one day, there's some things you should know. One of them is there is absolutely no evidence to support the statement that we're the greatest country in the world. We're 7th in literacy, 27th in math, 22nd in science, 49th in life expectancy, 178th in infant mortality, 3rd in median household income, number 4 in labor force, and number 4 in exports. We lead the world in only 3 categories: number of incarcerated citizens per capita, number of adults who believe angels are real, and defense spending, where we spend more than the next 26 countries combined, 25 of whom are allies. Now, none of this is the fault of a 20-year-old college student, but you nonetheless are, without a doubt, a member of the worst generation ever. So when you ask what makes us the greatest country in the world, it sure used to be. We stood up for what was right. We fought for moral reasons. We passed laws, struck down laws for moral reasons. We waged wars on poverty, not poor people. We sacrificed. We cared about our neighbors. We put our money where our mouths were, and we never beat our chest. We built great big things, made ungodly technological advances, explored the universe, cured diseases, and we cultivated the world's greatest artists and the world's greatest economy. We reached for the stars, acted like men. We aspired to intelligence. We didn't belittle it. It didn't make us feel inferior. We didn't identify ourselves by who we voted for in the last election, and we didn't scare so easy. We were able to be all these things and do all these things because we were informed by great men who were revered. First step in solving any problem is recognizing there is one. America is not the greatest country in the world anymore.
Oh shit. Here we go again.
You're full of shit.
Alright, thank you.
Now, shush. Shush.
In any country, prison is where society sends its failures. But in this country, society itself is failing.
I'd like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
We won the evangelicals. We won with young. We won with old. We won with highly educated. We won with poorly educated. I love the poorly educated.
You crazy.
Grab him by the pussy.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Stay more up, guy. Because you don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I did. Hold it, tough guy. I'm not afraid of physical. No, hold it. Don't sit there and tell me I'm not.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, "Fool me once, shame on you." You fool me, we can't get fooled again.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. Stand back and stand by. Will you shut up, man?
Last thing was Olivia Gondak. It says that I wanted to eat her pussy. Olivia Gondak. I've never said that in my life to her. I would never do that. I'm happily married. I've got more than enough to eat at home. Thank you very much.
You got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Okay. I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible. I went to an Ivy League school. I'm very highly educated. I know words. I have the best words. We now have a gun on every table. We're ready to start shooting.
By the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it.
This is the
That
same
was
man.
said sarcastically.
That was.
Even though they're trying to impeach the son of a bitch. Can you believe that? You believe that? That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this
Punch
investigation?
him in the face, I'll tell you.
If I may ask
Peter,
one
go
other
ahead.
question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's
Mr.
enough.
President, I was going to ask one other.
I don't want reality. I'm asking the question, which one is better? That's exactly what it is.
Got it on tape.
What a stupid son of a bitch.
I don't like words that hide the truth. I don't like words that conceal reality. I don't like euphemisms or euphemistic language. And American English is loaded with euphemisms because Americans have a lot of trouble dealing with reality. Americans have trouble facing the truth. So they invent a kind of a soft language to protect themselves from it. And it gets worse with every generation. For some reason, it just keeps getting worse. How stupid are these politicians to allow this to happen?
All right. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of TFP, Tape Fist Politics. This is episode 12. I'm Venkat, and I'm joined with the world's most dangerous political panel. Got MD. What's up, MD?
Peace. What's happening? What's going on?
All right. And we also have Ricardo. What's going on, Ricardo?
I'm good.
All right, cool. We have a jam-packed show. A lot went on last week, and it's a big show. So before I go on, I just want to say one thing. Shout out to Tequila. I can't say enough good things about her, and we are all, our hearts all go out to her during her time of hardship with losing a member of the family. So we just want to send our blessings and prayers to Tequila. All right. So, right. So now, before we get the show started, usually we go right into the lead story. But this show is so big and different. We're going to go right into lame duck session.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
You're trying your best, but it never feels like enough.
I started having second thoughts almost the moment I sat down on the plane.
Lights off! Turn them off. They're too bright. Turn them off. Let's go. Ready?
We go back a long way. She was 12, I was 30, but anyway.
So I changed my return flight and flew back on the first available flight I could take.
I'm sick and tired of smart guys.
I'm sick and tired of ordinary people being fleeced.
I'm tired of being quiet.
I'm sick and tired. I'm just sick and tired.
We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
With great power comes great responsibility.
you know where to find me anyplace, anytime, cowboy. You're making fun of him for not being the tallest senator. I mean, you represent 1.3 million workers. Do you really think that tweet, there's the tweet right there with your pink circling of the apple box he's standing on. Do you really think that is best serving, best representing the members of the Teamsters Union?
His story is compelling but inaccurate. And in a hearing in March, he started the whole thing by coming into a hearing, looking at us and basically saying to me, I'm not afraid of physical confrontation. As a matter of fact, I welcome it. Mm-hmm. So that's what perpetuated the whole incident. Never knew the man in my life, never met him. I was testifying in my first Senate hearing, and that was his first introduction to me.
Now, let's talk about Mr. O'Brien himself, his behavior. As everybody knows, and it's here in the last time, him and I kind of had a back and forth. Appreciate your demeanor today. It's quite different. But after you left here, you got pretty excited about the keyboard. In fact, you tweeted at me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And let me read what the last one said. It said, greedy CEO who pretends like he's self-made. Sir, I wish you was in the truck with me when I was building my plumbing company. Myself and my wife was running the office because I sure remember working pretty hard and long hours. Pretends like he's self-made. What a clown. Fraud. Always has been, always will be. Quit the tough guy act in these Senate hearings. You know where to find me. Any place, anytime, cowboy. Sir, this is a time, this is a place. If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big
Oh,
guy.
stop it.
Is that your solution every
Hold it. No, sit down. Sit down.
Look at you.
You know, you're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Active.
Oh, okay.
Sit down, please.
All right.
Can I respond? Mr.
Hold it. If
Hold
we
on.
can't, no,
This is
I have
what
the
he
mic.
said.
I'm sorry.
This is
Hold
what
it.
he said.
You'll have your time.
Okay.
Can I respond?
Oh, no, you can't. This is a hearing. And God knows the American people have enough of contempt for Congress. Let's not
I don't
make
like
it worse.
thugs and bullies. And that's what-
I don't like you because you just described yourself.
Hold it. You have the mic. You have time.
All right.
Make your statement.
Then let's do this, because I did challenge you, and I accepted your challenge, and you went quiet.
No, I didn't go quiet.
No,
You challenged me to a cage match, acting like a 12-year-old schoolyard bully.
Excuse me. Hold it. No, excuse me. I have the
I
mic.
will say exactly.
Senator Mullen, I have the mic. You have questions on any economic issues, anything that said, go for it. We're not here to talk about physical abuse.
You brought.
We're not
him
talking
in.
about. Of course, I did.
And let me show you his hearing, because I want to expose this thug to who he is. And
Could you not point at me? That's disrespectful.
All right.
I don't care about respecting you at all. I respect
don't
people that
respect you at all.
respect. So
All right, hold it.
let me
Hold it. No.
You don't want to
Hold
be
it.
the most
Hold
elite
it,
people.
please.
Act it.
Please. All right. This is excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
This is a hearing to discuss economic issues. All right? If you have questions for Mr. O'Brien or anybody else on what he has said, go for it. But we're not here to talk about fights or anything else.
I'm quoting exactly what he said.
You can
and
say
this
what
is-
you want,
This is
but
your witness
this
you
is
brought.
my
And let
witness.
me. I'm exposing him.
You can
as
talk
a person
anything
who
you want.
he is. So
but
in
no fight-
2013,
Nope.
in 2013, O'Brien was suspended by the Teamsters for intimidating your own members. In 2014, you were part of, what would you say, organizing the harassment and intimidation of the Top Shelf crew.
Chef, not chef.
Top Chef, okay. And then, and I think in the reports they said sexual, racist, and homophobic slurs and death threats. 14 tires were sliced, and 5 Teamsters were arrested. And you said, well, I had nothing to do with it. But however, in that same statement, you said, but if I get called to testify, I'll plead the fifth. This is a witness you brought in here. In 2017, you were removed as lead negotiator by then President Hoffa for UPS for your actions. And then in 22, when this guy was elected, what he said after he got elected was he wanted to bring the mob mentality back to the Teamsters. This is your guy.
And you're obviously going to give him a chance to respond to your questions.
Absolutely, absolutely, because this is my question. Because you called me out. I didn't call you out.
Yeah, you did.
You said anytime, any place.
Let's get the record
Okay.
straight.
Miss, hold it. No.
Hold on.
Senator Mullen, do you have a question for the witness?
Yeah. I
Okay,
think that's what I'm
let's
getting
hear
at.
it.
So, anytime, any place.
No, that's
April April is a charity event.
No, that's not.
No, it's a sir. He said it, and this is my
He is
time.
here to
You
tell.
can set
No,
parameters on what the questions can or cannot be asked, and I'll ask.
no, you're not going to. We're not going to be talking about
Yes, we
physical
can.
confrontation.
Oh, this is about charity for a union charity because this
This
is for firefighters. And
Do you have a question on his testimony?
April.
Grow up,
April
will you
next
please?
year.
You have
grow
a
up. You're an
question
embarrassment.
on his. Let's not
You
be.
said it.
You're an
You
embarrassment.
said
You're
it,
an
and I'm just
embarrassment.
simply answering it.
You
Senator
reached
Mullen,
out to
hold it.
everybody.
Hold it. Senator Mullen, you made some charges.
Charges.
Mr. O'Brien, do you want to respond to
Yeah, go
the
ahead,
question?
please.
Yeah, I mean, look, the reality of it is,
Accept my challenge, tough
Mr.
guy.
Mullen, tough guy.
Hold it. Answer the questions.
All right, you're one. He made a lot of statements, right? And his statements are fiction at best.
Fiction. I read them.
Can you answer?
What?
Answer the question, please.
I can't understand him, to be honest with you.
All right.
He rambles so much. What was your question, actually?
Well, you said I made a lot of statements.
No, but what's your question? I don't understand your question. Could you repeat it?
You said anytime, any place.
What's your question?
Accept the challenge.
What challenge?
You said anytime, any place. I'm accepting yours, so why don't you come
What
back?
challenge? What challenge are you talking
April
about?
30th. How about we do it for a charity at the Smoking Guns in Tulsa, Oklahoma?
No, we're not going to be
what was the
talking about
challenge?
physical
What are you talking about?
confrontations here.
You want to fight me?
What'd you say about anytime, any place?
Let's have coffee, discuss our differences.
Oh, that's what you said.
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
All right, well, let's sit down and have coffee.
Let's
I'd
do
love
it.
to.
All right. I'd love to.
But
do it.
It's funny how you're backing out.
Okay.
I don't back on anything.
You did.
You're the one. You're a 100.
Senator-
Should be the most influential people in this country, making changes.
Senator
You're
Hassan-
focused on.
Okay.
You're
Thank
focused
you.
on
Why did
debate
you-
that's not
Why
even
did you
relevant.
keep texting
You're an
me and they
embarrassment.
got
silence?
You're an
Excuse me.
embarrassment.
They went
That's what you
silence
are.
after
You're an
after
embarrassment to
my
the
text.
state of
This
Oklahoma.
hearing is about the condition of the working class in America.
You
That's
brought a
what we're
thug
talking.
into this.
You're the biggest thug here.
You brought him in.
All right,
You're the biggest thug. Even
Look,
your
I don't know
colleagues call you
why
big
you do
guy.
what you're doing, Senator Hassan.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Senator
Chair.
Hassan, you got a
Senator
question?
Mullen, please yield. I've been recognized
No,
by the chair.
Back to quoting.
Now,
Microphone is yours.
Okay,
Word up.
there he is. Put the spotlight on Mark Wayne Mullen. We've seen him before. He's actually in the intro of the Tape Fist Politics intro. You see him and the same gentleman, Mr. O'Brien. That was the first meeting, and now this is their second meeting. But Mark Wayne Mullen took an argument on Twitter and then immediately went in and brought it to the Senate. And it went bonkers. MD, why don't you get your butt up? What do you think, MD?
Okay, so again, and it's so apropos because you know how I feel about youngins. But in the same instances, I know the capital that Mark Wayne and that's so fitting. This dude, but in any of I know the capital.
Oh, MD, you're coming in and out. You're breaking up, MD.
All right, go to Ricardo. Give me a second. Just a second.
All right. We'll pick up with Ricardo. Why don't you get your butt up here, Ricardo?
Gladly, Sir Van. I mean, just that whole display of, it's basically, so O'Brien is a Teamster, and Mullen is a Oklahoma representative for the state.
Yeah, senator. Yeah.
Right. I am mortified to see this kind of display of behavior of people who are elected. Like, did the Oklahomans not vet this dude when they picked him? Like, this is what we're doing now? Really? Like, how does this pertain to what you were being called to do in the area? Like, I was mortified even just watching back. I heard about it during the week and heard bits and pieces, but to see it in real, like, not real time, of course, but to see it in action is just, man, that's just terrible. Like, I don't even know. Are you children? For the love of God, are you too old enough, mature men? Children, you are there to do one job and one job only, and it turned into a confrontation of who wants to beat up who and wants to fight up who. You are a father of 6, Mullen, a father of 6. I'd be mortified to be speaking like that with my children watching me in the background. Like, what are you doing? What are we doing? when you know it's bad when Bernie has to interject more than 5 times to say, gentlemen, we're not going to bring confrontation. We're not going to bring fights at a hearing. Like he had to speak on behalf of the American people watching this. What are we doing? Like what is this? Like really? This is just terrible. Just the optics of this alone is terrible. Oklahoma, do better. Come on, man. What are you guys doing?
So,
This
so it. I'm sorry to interrupt, Ricardo. I just want to say this piece real quick. So that whole hearing was to pass some economic relief. It was like an economic, just bill they were trying to get made together to help with, relief. And he pretty much is letting everyone know that it is more important to deal with his Twitter beefs
than to deal with
than to deal with the economy and the economics of his constituents and the United States citizens.
Just
yeah, you go ahead, Ricardo.
No, I'm just saying that's just abysmal. I mean, I don't know. I'm waiting to hear what MD has to say, but I mean, as the conservative bloc, sorry, has to really like start vetting these people that are being elected by like officials and by the states. Like you were called upon to represent the state of Oklahoma. How did a Twitter beef or what somebody says? I mean, mind you, when we were, and I'm bringing this back to like when you were in high school or in middle school or whatnot, when somebody says something about you, whatnot, this is not that was neither the time or place for that. You're bringing Twitter into your hearing because you were upset of what somebody says. People say things all the time. Like that people are gonna say things. This is what people do. People are fickle these days. They have nothing better to say or do, but they're gonna say things. You let that become the main interest of what you went to discuss at a hearing, was that you don't think he's a tough guy. You said some things about me. I'm calling you up. I'm telling you to stand up. Now, what are we doing? This is what we're at in this country? Come on, man. We can do better.
Every chance Bernie got to kind of get the train back on the rails, he kept going back to the fight. He talked about a date next year, April, some convention or whatever. There's some benefit that they have every year in Oklahoma. He wants to have a fight. I mean, this guy is just crazy. He doubled down, he tripled down, he quadrupled down. He just would not get off the fight.
And you lucky didn't mention it was a duel or because they always talk for the gun. The gun at any chance they get. I'm surprised that didn't turn into like
he did mention there's video of him talking about duels and stuff. so
Praise me.
I guess MD is still trying to get
No, I'm here. Am I better now?
Yeah.
That's excellent. Perfect.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I turned my internet on. I turned my mobile hotspot on. Okay, so it's so apropos that this is the first thing that we're talking about, because again, you know how I feel about unions. But in the interest of fairness, I can't. I have no defense for this one. The reason why is because he detracted from what he was supposed to be talking about to talk about a fight. If he had any sense in regards to deunionization, that's what he would have. He could. I mean, like I said, I don't know his whole track record in terms of deunionization and stuff like that, but that was his opportunity, and he chose to talk about a fight. So I can't back this one up, y'all. You know what I mean? And I love talking. Yeah, I love talking about. No, yeah, I love talking about squashing the unions, but I can't do it on this one. And and again, the hearing was supposed to be about these pro, I guess you would say, pro worker class, pro unions impact statements based on the bill that was being debated on the Senate floor. And they failed. The Republicans failed horribly. Not just him, but what was the lady's name?
All day long.
Yeah. I mean, the Republicans as a whole,
November 14th, Tuesday, last week, an entire day of chaos from the Republican Party.
they failed miserably in trying to, I guess, come up with an argument to go against workers' rights and so on and so forth. So like I said again, I can't defend this one, y'all. And I love defending deunionization, but I can't do it. I can't do it on this one.
But a little history with him. So the reason why he's really pissed is because, again, this is a second meeting. A few months ago, they had that's where the clips from the opening on TFP comes from. But he is taking it personal because O'Brien, I guess he's blaming O'Brien for his business, his workers at his business trying to unionize, and it's costing him money. So he's like really annoyed and pissed with O'Brien in general. And then, of course, it's taking this petty level where on Twitter, he's showing him stepping on a box because he's too short when he does it, which it seems like a lot of Republicans are stepping on boxes. I don't know what's going on with that.
Right. And I'm glad you brought that up. So he tried to make a point. He tried to make a point of in the impact testimony that how he worked so hard to start his plumbing business, blah, 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 this and that.
Mm-hmm.
The part that he's not telling you is that he had the capital to start the business.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And again, that this is where I could see to Venkat, I must admit, he had the resources that provided him the opportunity to start the business. That's the part he won't tell you. As a matter of fact, I saw a video where they were talking about this and going into the backstory of him starting his plumbing business, and he was actually given the capital from family and friends. Everybody ain't got that opportunity. I mean, that's just a fact.
Exactly.
So when you look at the compare and contrast of workers versus business owner, the opportunity comes through the demand of the workers. If you're not putting in stark demand with the workers, i.e., pay, tenure, so on and so forth, of course the workers are going to strike back. So it's a fine line between supply and demand when it comes to employment. You have to work out the fine gratuities in order to keep a fine balance, if that makes sense.
Right.
So, like, again, he had his opportunity to debate it. He chose not to. He chose to talk about MMA. So, you know what I mean? That's on him.
He is a former MMA fighter, by the way. He is a former.
I think he was
at the end of the day, who gives a damn? Look, we talking about politics. You know what I mean?
He was trying to plug MMA. That's what I think he was trying to do. I mean, congratulations. Let me give him a clap. Kudos. You did a fantastic job.
Maybe Bones and them can interview him. Hell, I don't know.
Oh, there you go. Straight exclusive from Straight Talk.
Yeah, man. It's just deplorable. Just you are fighting with a Teamster at that. Like, really? It was so bad. I heard that people were like trying to Google or find out who Mullins was, or Mullen, if that's his name, was after that hearing, because they were actually rooting for the Teamster more. You know, it's bad when people then switch sides because you're supposed to be the conservative. That again, what echo what MD says, you basically went to the errand to talk about state issues. Why is it that you didn't bring up at least once? The only thing I heard in that conversation when it started in the intro was, I was this guy that started this business and I did such and such and such. That's usually how a conservative would start out. It just went left completely after that. It was like, I'm gonna challenge you. It almost, again, I was telling Venkat just now, he should have just went ahead and just say, I challenge you to a duel on the floor. And the best shootout wins, because that's literally what it sounded like. It was just a back and forth tussle of nonsense that didn't get to the point. You went there to speak about state issues. Talk about the state issue politics. Don't go there bringing your personal beefs that has nothing to do with anything. What does this have to do with the state issue? It's basically about unions fighting against them. Like, this is just, I mean, this country has gone so off base that I don't even know where we're at anymore. It's that bad when Bernie Sanders has to speak on behalf of the American people. Why?
Right.
And poor Bernie. He didn't have the strength. He didn't have the strength to hit the gavel as hard as he should have. He was hitting it so light. I was like, man, don't nobody hear that, Bernie. Hit it hard.
Now, MD, remember, Bernie's a little bit on the elderly side now, so he doesn't have that kind of, oomph that he would have before.
Yeah, I ain't want him to snap his wrist or nothing, I guess.
You got to give him that.
All right. Well, this is our lame duck number 13. Today's show is the Republican Rumble. So last week, November 14th, there was a whole lot of rumbling in the House of Representatives and the Senate. And the Republicans were just looking for blood against each other mostly. There were so many instances that happened, but let's recap with our lead story some of the craziest things that all happened in one day, including what we just talked about.
It was a chaotic and oddly violent day on Capitol Hill, where Republicans' dysfunction, stunts, and anger are becoming more and more extreme.
If you thought congressional Republicans were maybe a little bit uncontrollable, as evidenced by this latest threat of yet another government shutdown, well, you ain't seen nothing yet.
So, your United States Congress is on a path to diverting a shutdown as of Tuesday. But that does not mean that they have their acts together. They are still spoiling for a smackdown. It was one of the more bizarre days we have seen on Capitol Hill in recent memory.
Their new speaker, Mike Johnson, Louisiana, just managed to pass a continuing resolution funding the government until early next year. That avoids a looming shutdown. That's good, you'd think. But crucially, more Democrats voted for that measure than members of Johnson's own party. As Jake Sherman of Punchbowl News put it, Democrats saved him. Dangerous territory for Republican Speaker, see McCarthy, Kevin. Mike Johnson learned pretty quickly the lesson that the only way to keep the government functioning, something we've been saying throughout, right, is to basically ignore part of his own caucus and to work with Democrats. And that decision today, and the kind of oddly anticlimactic vote in Congress along the lines we all knew it would happen, that may have something to do with the rage that emerged all over Capitol Hill today in an environment that Speaker Johnson himself described as a, quote, pressure cooker. Now, the first and most notable incident involved Mike Johnson's predecessor. Remember that guy? That's the former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, turfed out over a month ago. This morning, in clear view of at least one reporter, McCarthy appears to have assaulted a member of his own GOP conference.
It started with the first two you just saw, Republican Congressman Tim Burchett, among the 8 House Republicans, there he is, who voted to remove Kevin McCarthy as Speaker, accused McCarthy of elbowing him in the kidneys.
Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett says former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy elbowed him in the kidneys as they were gathering to vote on a new funding bill. The exchange heard in this audio from NPR.
I think it went all right. Sorry, Kevin. Didn't mean to elbow. Why'd you elbow me in the back, Kevin? I know. I felt so bad. Hey, Kevin, you got any guts? Jerk. What kind of chicken move is that? You're pathetic, man. You are so pathetic.
Has he done that before?
No.
Huh. That's a new move.
Go talk to him. Hey, Kevin, why'd you walk by me and elbow me in the back? You got no guts. You did so. They sat there and the reporter said it right there. What kind of chicken move is that? You're pathetic, man. You are so pathetic. What a jerk. You need security, Kevin. Anyway.
Burchett explained that what happened in more detail, telling reporters he believed the assault was intentional.
I was standing in the hall doing an interview with her, and Kevin McCarthy walked by and elbowed me in the kidneys as he walked by. And
still in pain.
It kind of caught me off guard. And you ever get shot in the kidneys, it's a little different than anywhere else. And so I moved forward.
You felt it was on purpose and not an accident.
Oh, it was 100% on purpose, man. What are the chances? 435 members of Congress paid up us, voted against him. I'm the one who did it. I'm one of them that did it. He's publicly called me out. You know, and he didn't see any cameras. He didn't think anybody was paying attention. Yeah, he thought Claudia from NPR was paying attention. You know, it was deliberate. It was just a cheap shot by a bully.
But McCarthy denies hitting Burchett.
Did you elbow him?
Okay, no, I did not elbow him. No, I would not elbow him. I would not hit him in a kidney.
Burchett was among the Republicans led by Matt Gaetz, who voted to remove McCarthy as Speaker last month. Now, following yesterday's incident, Gaetz has followed an ethics complaint against McCarthy.
It was a clean shot to the kidneys, and I turned back, and there was Kevin. He's a bully with $17 million in a security detail. You know, he's the type of guy that, when you're a kid, would throw a rock over the fence and run home and hide behind his mama's skirt.
Did you elbow him?
Okay, no, I did not elbow him. No, I would not elbow him. I would not hit him in a kidney. HC5, you're all down there, right? Not a very big hallway. So I'm walking out. You can talk to Bruce Westerman, because I actually called him after you guys reported something. I said, did I hit somebody? Bruce Westerman and I were walking out, and I guess a reporter was interviewing Burchett or something. I guess our shoulders hit, because Burchett runs up to me after. I didn't know what he was talking about. Some reporters asked me. I did not run and hit the guy. I did not kidney punch him. I did not shoot anything like that.
You didn't shove him?
No.
But reporters and witnesses said it looked like there was plenty of room for you to walk and that you intentionally hit him.
There is, okay, not a place. Show me a reporter who saw that. Call Bruce Westerman. Okay, well, ask Bruce Westerman. No, I did not go up. If I would hit somebody, they would know I hit him.
He said he knew he hit him. He said he was in pain that you hit him so hard in the kidneys.
Come on now.
That's what he said.
Okay.
McCarthy denies the allegation, and he told reporters that if he had hit Burchett, quote, he'd be on the ground, end quote.
Meanwhile, on the same day, yet another episode of schoolyard behavior in the halls of the Capitol. This morning, the senator who challenged a union boss to a fight during this hearing on Capitol Hill is revealing what led up to their explosive exchange.
He's just not used to being called out. I think the guy's really tough on a keyboard, but that's about it.
Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin was questioning Teamsters President Sean O'Brien when the two nearly came to blows.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on. Oh, stop it.
Senator Bernie Sanders intervening.
This is a hearing. And God knows the American people have enough of contempt for Congress. Let's not.
I don't like, then let's do this, because I did challenge you and I accepted your challenge and you went quiet.
No, I didn't go quiet. You challenged me to a cage match, acting like a 12-year-old schoolyard bully.
Excuse me.
Senator Mullin, who owns a plumbing company, said his feud with O'Brien began months ago when the senator accused the Teamsters of trying to intimidate his employees into unionizing. O'Brien on social media back in June called Mullin a greedy CEO, clown, and fraud, adding, "You know where to find me, any place, anytime, cowboy."
Being raised in Oklahoma all life, you don't do that. You don't go run off the mouth unless you expect to be called to the carpet. And I did that. If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on. Oh, stop it.
Is that your solution every problem?
No, sit down. No, Eric, sit down. Look at you. You know, you're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Yeah, but what about, just the idea that fighting as a way to solve a problem, is that kind of, are you concerned that that's the way the conversation is happening here on Capitol Hill?
People's been fighting for a long time. I mean, go back to the 1800s, they used to have canings. It was legal to do duels. If you have a difference, you have a difference. I didn't start it. I didn't tweet at him. I didn't go after him. I have no beef with the guy. I mean, I don't even know the last time I've gotten a street fight. I used to get paid to fight. I'm not looking at, what victory is it for me to beat up O'Brien? That would be a shock, right? But he said it. And I just simply responded. If he wants to call it off and we just go have a cup of coffee, fine, let's say I don't have a cup of coffee. I have no hard feelings. It's not personal to me. He just challenged me, and I accepted the challenge.
Okay, if that wasn't enough, the House Oversight Chairman, James Comer, also unleashed on freshman Congressman Jared Moskowitz for pressing him about his own financial dealings after Comer has accused President Biden of corruption.
That is bullshit. Never loaned my brother money.
don't have an LLC. But you and Goldman, who is Mr. Trust Fund, continue to try to
reclaiming my
discredit.
time.
No, I'm not going to give you your time back. We can stop the clock. You all continue to. You look like a Smurf here, just going around and all this stuff. Now, listen,
Mr. Chairman, I'm
going to tell you something.
Hold on. If we're not on time,
we spew disinformation.
You have gone on TV and said the president did something illegal. You're doing stuff with your brother. The American people have the same questions. Why should they believe you? Why should they believe you? Why should they believe you? There's a different rule for the president. There's a different rule for you. Why should they believe what you're saying, Mr. Chairman? Why?
Today brought actual Republican on Republican physical violence on the House side. And in the other Capitol chamber, a Republican senator threatened physical violence against a witness during a hearing. Not a spoof, not a satire, not news reporters taking lighthearted moments and twisting them for our own nefarious ends. I'm dead serious here.
All that drama overshadowed House Speaker Mike Johnson's big victory yesterday. His short-term spending plan to prevent a government shutdown was approved with the help of Democrats.
All right, so there's a lot to digest there. So we'll go around to Ricardo this time. Ricardo, what is your take on what we just saw?
Wow. I don't even know how to digest what I just saw. First, you have a former Speaker of the House elbowing is the prop, I guess, is the new way of cleaning up the word. Another representative on the floor because he's angry about something, but really and truly, it's more like he probably did back in the day when we were in school, we did like a shoulder bump, but it's like a hard shoulder bump kind of thing where you don't like somebody, so you just bump into them and then you have to correct the person. But instead, McCarthy chose to do an elbow. How childish can we really get? So we're doing elbows now, and in addition to that, you're having people using profanities out loud on the floor. Really, Republicans, this is where we're at. Conservative values just mean nothing, nada anymore. Like, this is just beyond asinine to watch. Just beyond asinine. When are we going to get back to values? That's the whole core and the whole portion of being conservative. You're making your liberal statesmen look way better than how y'all are supposed to be representing yourselves. This is just sad to watch. Just completely a snowball effect from the top, and it stinks from the top. So whatever swamp that they were trying to drain is still there, and they're in the filth of it, just completely amok. I don't know what that is. I don't know the representation, the representatives, whatever that is. It starts from the leadership. Perhaps they need to have or convene a meeting, like I've been saying, with this new class of people that are in. Let them know what it's like from the old teams, the old classmates that have been in that position for a while. Because I don't know if everybody's trying to prove or make a point, but this is not how we do this. This is just bad optics, completely terrible. And mind you, this is 1 year from now when we're supposed to be making a vote in 2024. So on November the 14th is usually an election day. This is all amok. This, for me, I don't know if it's glass and mirrors, but we need to fix this from now going into 2024. This is not looking good.
Hey, Ricardo, real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So this was November 14th, last week, Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
The week before that, the Republicans had just lost key elections all around.
Nuts.
Ohio, Virginia, places that you shouldn't lose, they just lost. So this is literally 1 week later after voters said, we don't like what you're doing. What are you going to do to improve? And this is what we're getting here. And you made a great point. It stinks from the top. And all that stuff that happened that day, no Donald Trump. I mean, he has his own spin-offs. He has sequels, spin-offs, reboots. He has all that going on. But Donald Trump wasn't the worst of the worst. And that sets the tone.
Absolutely. That is shocking that we didn't even bring him up once yet. In this whole thing, we have yet to bring him up. And this is what we're seeing. So it says a lot because again, it's one if they lost the week before, and it's 1 year to the day of November the 14th going into next year. I'm a little bit terrified if they're not getting the message what the American people has been saying to them this whole time. You claim that there was a red wave the last time around, which clearly did not happen because the American people made it evenly split in the middle. It's like a complete split. They're literally telling these people, do your job correctly because you guys everybody's saying the polls is saying this and no one knows what's going to because it's split evenly. I need everybody to strive at least to go for some kind of a little bit of like clear decisiveness here because it's all over the place and it's not looking good. This is not what we want. This is not what the American people want. This is not what these people to do. But here we are. Color me not surprised.
What you got, MD?
Yeah. So again, it's so apropos that all this is happening. And I concur with what Trevor said. Is war games. We in Survivor Series season, and that's what it is. You know what I mean? It's brand supremacy in the sense that it's a political brand. I would urge you to go look up the 5 families in the GOP. The 5 families got everything to do with what's going on right now. You got and we're talking about the House of Representatives. You got, of course, everybody knows Freedom Caucus. And then you got like mainstream caucus, the study commission, blah, 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 this and that. All these different groups within the GOP have certain advantages over one another in terms of, I guess you would say, political influence. It's all about who can garner the political influence amongst everybody else. You know what I'm saying? This is what this is all about. How do I know that, MD? I know that because we're looking at the same situation. Like literally the same situation that McCarthy was in, now Mike Johnson is in. The same bill just passed that got Mike McCarthy out of there.
Lord.
And now all of a sudden it's okay?
Lord.
Like how do you do that? The literal same bill, Venkat and Ricardo. All they did was extend the budget to another date. That's all they did.
And it's not that far. It's not that far from now.
Exactly. But when Mike McCarthy did it, they hanged him from a tree. So now all of a sudden it's okay? No, it's not okay. The reason I know it's not okay is because of how the totality of the Republicans voted on it.
Right.
I mean, literally, no difference in voting between when McCarthy did it and when Mike Johnson did it. They're all split. And who comes in to save the day? The Democrat. You know what I'm saying? So again,
wow.
it's stupidity at the end of the day.
Oh Lord.
Because you're trying to hold on to some facade of some value system amongst your constituents, you don't focus on what's actually going on politically for the totality of the nation, because you're so caught up in some grandiose idea of conservatism. That's why I always say it with me, conservatism is dead. It's dead. It's not dead because the value system is dead. It's dead because there's so many different ideologies muddying the water.
Right. That's
when in actuality it's more or less about who can get the most donors and make the most money within the system.
That's what it seems to be all about now, is raising campaign money over actually doing the work.
And I will go on the record and say, you know what? First time ever, I'm gonna have to agree with MD. Conservatism is dead now, because this whole fiat that we're seeing unfolding in front of us, this ain't it. This is what's next. We're gonna see, the conservative representative married a porn star, and they filmed a dirty video somewhere, and now it's like, oh, it's all about family values. We're trying to make a kid out of it. Like that's the next optics we're gonna get. It's that bad. What is going on here? Like there has to be some form of decency where there shouldn't be this kind of bad gesture of regards for the American people, that it's like child's play. Like we're literally seeing kids that are mature adults that should know better unfolding themselves in a way, in a mannerism that is just beyond shocking. This just is it. And is it the point I'm trying to make? It is this even shocking to us anymore? Like we've become so accustomed to it that we're just like, okay, so what's next? Like this doesn't even seem shocking to us. It's more like, okay, so what's the next thing that they could top that with? That's how bad it is.
So I want you guys to hear this. It's about less than 60-second clip here of how the Republicans felt after this disastrous day and when the bill got passed. Let's just hear how they feel about it.
Welcome back. Amid a week of escalating chaos among Republican lawmakers, including several threats of physical violence, the House has recessed early for its Thanksgiving break after GOP members of the Conservative Freedom Caucus revolted and tanked a vote in the lower chamber yesterday. Now, the vote ruled to move forward with one of the 12 appropriations bills that the House must pass each year. Freedom Caucus members told reporters their rebellion was due to their frustrations over the clean government funding bill passed in the House with support from a bunch of Democrats on Tuesday that did not include spending cuts nor any conservative policy add-ons. They also said the group's policy priorities are essentially being ignored by Republican leadership.
So practically, as a party, you crap the bed. It didn't go well for you at any level, but they're still complaining that they didn't get to shove in Republican initiatives in the bills that passed, and that's their complaint.
Well, again, that's not all Republicans though. They specifically said the Freedom Caucus.
Okay.
And the Freedom Caucus is an extreme right wing part of the GOP.
Very true.
So
That's true.
so there again, like I said, it goes back to what I just said. It's a power struggle amongst the GOP.
Right.
That's what it all comes down to.
But
you know what I'm saying?
In the process, we're watching this train wreck happen in the government in a time of economic despair with inflation and all this. We're just still trying to come out of COVID and all these problems. Rent is high, housing prices, all these problems we have financially, economically. You got these wars over there. We're moving money there. We got all this poverty. All these people are out on the streets. And when people turn on the news and we're seeing this, we're seeing Republicans not, well, first of all, oust their House Speaker for illegitimate means, but they said it was legitimate. Then they install a new guy, and he did what the other guy did, and somehow that's okay. It's just a weird upside down world we're living in right now.
Right. And I totally agree. But like I said, when you look at it from a perspective of who's garnering the most influence, there you go. You know what I mean? So I agree totally what you're saying. I'm just saying it's not the totality of the Republican Party. With that being said, when we look at what people view as MAGA and I guess you would say the extreme right and stuff like that, and I had this argument before. People don't understand. That's a minority within the Republican Party. But the issue is when it comes to a national perspective, they don't want to show the dysfunction. They would rather just go with, for the perspective of everybody in the country, they would rather just go with a I guess you would say a papal bull or a Trojan horse to solidify the Republican Party, i.e., Trump. It's another thing that the Freedom Caucus came up with. It's called it's a book. It's called Project 2025. I don't know if you ever heard of that. Project 2025 is basically like a blueprint for and it don't have to be Trump. It can be whoever. But let's just keep it real. They're going with Trump. It's basically a blueprint of how they go about policies starting inauguration January. What's that? January 5th, I think. When is inauguration? January 5th, 2025.
Yeah.
The way and go ahead, Ricardo.
No, I was gonna say, do you think that flies anymore, MD? Because once upon a time, the Republican Party used to look more like, okay, so we are unison in terms of how we present ourselves. So even though we might not like something, we're gonna still vote for it, and then we look like we're all in this together kind of pack. Now I don't think that flies anymore, because now we're literally seeing them unfold, and it's like, oh, I don't get my way. It's like I'm against it completely, and then I become a fraction of what everything else I used to represent. So I don't think that argument flies anymore, MD, because now I don't that whole unison argument that we used to see from them, the conservative groups. You might as well just say at this point, if the GOP, because I think they should just at this point split down the middle. If you're GOP, meaning the old conservative way of doing things, then you're on one side. The other side is basically mostly like the Trumpers, if you will call them that, or whatever they want to call themselves now. It's like a split between the two. I don't see that argument flying anymore, because now they're not behaving like how they usually would. It's more of, if I don't get my way, I'm just going to create hell for everybody else, and doing the complete same thing that you were arguing against. So it's kind of like counterintuitive and just nonsensical. I don't know what if that's the case, they might as well just split the GOP, if we're even calling it that anymore. It's not even a GOP party. It's just two different fractions of what used to be a party split down the middle, and they're both fighting for, I don't know what they're what are they fighting for anymore?
Brand supremacy. It's Survivor Series, literally. That's what it is. And I agree with your point, Ricardo. But all I was saying was, the facade is to give a perspective as a unified party. We know it's not. As a matter of fact, I'll give you a perfect example. We go back to the McCarthy experiment. They went from who was first? Jim Jordan, Tom Emmer to Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson was the compromise. And I would argue that because they compromised on Mike Johnson is the reason why all of this stuff is happening in the Republican Party right now. That would be my argument, because they knew there would be no difference legislatively between Mike Johnson and McCarthy. Literally none. But because to show I guess solidarity amongst the right wing base, they went on ahead and said, screw it, we just gonna put Mike Johnson in, not knowing that he was they knew, but us being the people, not knowing that Mike Johnson was a clear Christian nationalist, not knowing that he wasn't going to be able to do anything different that McCarthy could do, in the fact that trying to get conservative policies put into place when you don't have the majority. How? In terms of the Senate and the House. So again, it's ring around the rosy at this point, playing with the 5 factors of the GOP. And it's going to continue to be that way until somebody can solidify it from a perspective of policy. Trump is not that person. He just ain't.
So, Maria G was saying, did you cover the Vivek destroying Haley during the debate? I didn't.
I don't agree with that.
You don't agree?
No.
So I that did bother me. I didn't get to cover it last week, so I do want to do that this week. So let's take a look at some highlights of that last debate that happened. I think it was, what, 2 weeks ago or something like that?
It was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. All right, so we're going to take a look at that in the political news segment.
Governor DeSantis, let me begin with you on this one. Speak to Republican voters who are supporting Donald Trump. Why should you and not him be the Republican nominee to face Joe Biden a year from now?
Now, if you look where we are now, it's a lot different than where we were in 2016. And Donald Trump's a lot different guy than he was in 2016. He owes it to you to be on this stage and explain why he should get another chance. He said Republicans were going to get tired of winning. Well, we saw last night, I'm sick of Republicans losing.
You know, everybody wants to talk about President Trump. Well, I can talk about President Trump. I can tell you that I think he was the right president at the right time. I don't think he's the right president now.
We've become a party of losers at the end of the day. It was a cancer in the Republican establishment. Let's speak the truth. I mean, since Ronna McDaniel took over as chairwoman of the RNC in 2017, we have lost 2018, 2020, 2022, no red wave that never came. We got trounced last night in 2023. And I think that we have to have accountability in our party.
As President of the United States, what would you be urging Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to do at this moment? Governor DeSantis.
I would be telling Bibi, finish the job once and for all with these butchers, Hamas.
The last thing we need to do is to tell Israel what to do. The only thing we should be doing is supporting them and eliminating Hamas. It is not that Israel needs America. America needs Israel.
Israel has the right and the responsibility to defend itself. I would tell him to smoke those terrorists on his southern border, and then I'll tell him as President of the United States, I'll be smoking the terrorists on our southern border.
And what is Biden doing? Not only is he not helping the Jewish students who are being persecuted, he is launching an initiative to combat so-called Islamophobia. No, it's the anti-Semitism that's spiraling out of control.
Right. Ukraine is not a paragon of democracy. This is a country that has banned 11 opposition parties. It has consolidated all media into one state TV media arm. That's not democratic. It has threatened not to hold elections this year unless the U.S. forks over more money. That is not democratic. It has celebrated a Nazi in its ranks, the comedian in cargo pants, a man called Zelensky, doing it in their own ranks. That is not democratic.
I am telling you, Putin and President Xi are salivating at the thought that someone like that could become president. They would love to.
The fact of the matter is she doesn't answer.
So this is what I will tell you.
We're driving Russia into China's hands because of these foolish policies.
TikTok is not only spyware, it is polluting the minds of American young people all throughout this country, and they're doing it intentionally.
In the last debate, she made fun of me for actually joining TikTok while her own daughter was actually using the app for a long time. So you might want to take care of your family first.
Leave my daughter out of your voice.
Your adult daughter. The next generation of Americans are using it.
As much as I'm pro-life, I don't judge anyone for being pro-choice, and I don't want them to judge me for being pro-life. So when we're looking at this, there are some states that are going more on the pro-life side. I welcome that. There are some states that are going more on the pro-choice side. I wish that wasn't the case, but the people decided.
We need a 15-week federal limit. 3 out of 4 Americans agree with a 15-week limit.
But don't make the American people think that you're going to push something on them when we don't even have the votes in the Senate. It's important that we're honest about that.
Bringing you some breaking news right now. Another GOP candidate for president is leaving the race. Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina announcing just a few moments ago he is suspending his campaign for president. Scott making the surprising announcement in an interview with Fox just a few minutes ago. Take a listen.
But when I go back to Iowa, it will not be as a presidential candidate. I am suspending my campaign. I think the voters who are the most remarkable people on the planet have been really clear that they're telling me, not now, Tim. I don't think they're saying, Trey, no, but I do think they're saying not now.
Okay. So a lot of different topics. We'll go to MD. I think because I went to Ricardo the last time, so we'll go to MD this time. Anything in particular in that clip or highlight that met your attention?
So again, I think I talked about this last week about my position with Nikki Haley. I think Nikki Haley still is a strong number two in terms of her policies and so on and so forth. She lost some cool points with me. You didn't show it in that clip, but she basically was saying that she agrees with the states going with abortion votes, but she said she's willing to compromise based on if Congress can get Republican majority in order to come up with something federally, and that's not right. You know what I mean? It goes against her stance on what she said previously by saying it's the state's choice, which she kind of sort of acquiesced in this debate, but ultimately she said it's based on Republican majority and coming up with a solution that way. That's still federal. That's still not right. In terms of Scott, they didn't say not now, Tim Scott. They said Negro, get out the race, is what they said. That's what they said. So let's just keep it real. You know what I mean? You was there as a token. You did your purpose, and now you're up out of there. You know what I mean?
That's
It is what it
exactly
is.
what I was thinking, MD. You said exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. You were a side character, and you know your time is up, and you know you're up out of there. Go back to your seat in the Congress and leave it alone. You know what I mean? But ultimately, like I said, from the things that were said policy wise, I still give it to Christie. I think he won that debate decisively in terms of his policies. Some I don't agree with, yes, but the way he put it into comprehension as far as the totality of what's need to be done on a conservative aspect, whether I agree with it or not, to me he won the debate, and Nikki Haley was a close second. Now the stuff with Vivek, real quick. Vivek was up there talking about how he was basically trying to expose Nikki Haley when she was a UN ambassador, and how she had I guess a working relationship with China. This capitalism, baby. Everybody got working relationships when there's money involved. So I don't take anything away from her working with China. If now you want to say, okay, China's the bad guy, that's the ultimate antagonist, like Nick Haley's saying, okay, cool, whatever. You just reading off cue cards at the end of the day. The fact of the matter is, China, from a capitalistic aspect, is our partner in the United States, whether you want to believe it or not. There is no getting rid of China. How do I know that? Yesterday, when the transcripts came out with Biden and his meeting with Xi asked for Xi asked the United States for $600 billion on loan. But I'm supposed to believe that China is the ultimate antagonist. I'm not. I ain't going for it.
Okay. All right. What are your viewpoints, Ricardo?
Yeah, that was really interesting to watch. I question this whole thing of them talking one way about one thing and then saying the other for the next. Like, you can't be saying one thing for Ukraine and then it's not applicable to Israel. Like, and then since when? Like, I'm trying to figure out in everybody's frame of mind and thought process, what is anti-Semitism? Because if I'm speaking out against the atrocities of what Israel is doing, that's not anti-Semitism. That's me telling you, hey, what you're doing to these people that you're bombarding every single minute, you're literally saying you're getting rid of the terrorist group that you're trying to destroy. But what about the innocent people that are caught in between that? Are you just going to just eliminate them and then that should be the all be all? That's not how that works. There's innocent.
Hey, not only that, Ricardo, but it's so-called Islamophobia. Islamophobia that don't exist.
Right. It's like I'm like baffled by this. So it's like they're saying one thing, and I've yet to hear somebody make the bold statement of saying, "Listen, I don't mind Israel saying that we're going to defend ourselves. They're entitled to it. Every country's allowed to. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. You come in my territory and try to do something, then I'm going to have the right to retaliate." With that being stated, you're trying to eliminate a, I guess it's not even a country, but a state that has been in place since historical were being kept. You cannot get rid of Palestine, no matter how hard you try. That argument is not going to fly, not in the face of the Islamic countries that are around it. And it's in little or no time, we're going to see something happen where somebody's going to either do a retaliation or they're going to come out and do something else. And that's my biggest fear. They're trying to eliminate Hamas. There's nothing wrong with that. But you're in the process of you doing that, you're literally killing innocent bystanders that are there who have nowhere to go to. So I don't understand when people start speaking out like myself, you're going to say, oh, it's the anti-Semitism. Please get over yourselves, because that's not what it is. When people speak out about atrocities, that is nowhere close to anti-Semitism. So we need to toe the line of carefully separating what is anti-Semitism from what isn't. Like, it's very, very like, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's like they're saying one thing for Ukraine, but then when it comes to Israel, it's like, oh no, we're all pro-Israel. We're all that. Like, give me a break. It's really like becoming really like atrocious at this point. Like, they got to cut it out. And that's my problem with everybody on that stage. They never, not once did anyone stand up and say, oh, you know what, I'm all for Israel, but at the same length of breath, we have to like go in and toe the line of saying, hey, like Palestine, the innocent bystander, not even that they could say. It was just all for the politics of getting the vote from the concern. And the other thing I want to bring up this week that I don't think I touched on, there's a lot of censorship coming down the pipeline now. So I think Israel realized that there's a lot of videos and stuff that have been out about the bombardment, that they're now going to Facebook and Twitter and all these places and telling them to take them offline. That's censorship. You're not supposed to be doing that. You can't be doing one thing and then you're going to go and say, oh, you take this off, or we're not going to do so and so. You can't censor. This is where it becomes very dangerous when you have the freedom of the press being affected by people coming in to see or dictate what you can and can't show. It's that you're giving us real time. It's not like the 1990s where you could show one thing and then it takes a week to filter down the pipeline. That's not how that works. We literally see everything that comes in. Automatically, we can then go in and then say, all right, we make our judgments from there. So I don't know how that's going to fly, but that's something that took me out a little bit last week when I saw that Israel is now going in as a state, telling all these conglomerates, hey, Facebook, Apple, so-and-so, if we see you posting anything regarding what we're doing, and from the earlier onset of when we started this bombardment, we're going to now pull certain things, investment. I'm like, okay, all right. So here we are. So that was a point I wanted to bring up. To bring up the Tim Scott thing. That was just some weird optics, because that I could have sworn 2 weeks before that they were on the GOP or the political affiliates around him were like, oh, but you don't have a spouse, you don't have a girlfriend, you don't have a wife, and then he literally bring this random woman out, and then all of a sudden,
Weird.
I'm gonna cut the campaign. They told me to bow out. What? Are you kidding me? Like, this don't make no damn sense. This is really kabuki theater. Like, I was
where the white women at?
Right. Like, he literally white woman. I thought it was so it was a Becky the whole time. Okay, so then I was so confused by the whole thing, because I was like, you did all of that to then say you're gonna quit the week after? Like, come on, man. Like, this. So I agree with Maria G. I think it's more like they were pulling the funding from him, and they were like, listen, that you're a puppeteer in all of this. It was all good and dandy. You always knew you were some kind of I guess like a little thing we put out there, but now we're gonna pull your funding, so it's not gonna be, we're not gonna give you any more builds or moolah. So you just gotta figure it out. And he was like, okay, I guess I can't do this no more. So he just left the race. So then now we're slowly seeing the whole group just trickling down. My thing now, I've been saying this over and over again. I'm going to say it again. So they're doing all of this to then pick somebody to then lose to Trump. So how does this work? Because Trump has yet to show his face on that stage That's what I'm waiting for. And I don't want him to show up at the last minute and be like, oh, see, I didn't do this because I was smarter than all of y'all. I knew they were going to pick me anyways. Like, that defeats the whole purpose of why we have the debates. He should be on the stage with them arguing, but every single point they seem to bring up always go back to him, and that defeats the purpose of the debates. There's more to it than Trump, but everybody's so spineless, including Nikki, talk about, oh, but there's nobody that knows Trump more than me. Yeah, girl, you knew of him, but all of a sudden he was the best president at the time when you were in his trunket. But then now when you're running for president, oh no, he's not the best president now. Pick that. You can't talk the line. Like, that don't make sense, Nikki. Come on. That's not good. That's just So I agree with MD. It goes back to Christie being the clear front runner here, and they don't want to say it, but then you're gonna pick Trump anyway. So what's the point of all of this?
Well, Chris Christie has a theory about that.
Yeah, Chris Christie is last as far as how the polls show it. But I mean, again, it is at this point, it's not about policy. It ain't about your position from another candidate. It's about the fanaticism of a certain base that is it's a religious cult, is what it is at this point. So you can just crumple up policy, challenge another. You can throw that out the window at this point. That don't matter. That's why Trump's not here, because he don't have to be here, because his cult base puts him on the pedestal, and that's what it is. He will win the Republican candidacy. That's just what it is. Let's just face the fact.
According to Chris Christie, he believes that starting in April, when Trump has to go to these trials, that a lot of it is going to hit, and Trump will pretty much his whole run will start to flutter as people start seeing footage and seeing all the different trials he has to attend. His support should wane. So we'll see. We'll see. He's going to have a lot of trials. A lot of them he already looked like he's going to lose already. So Chris Christie feels like when that stuff starts, everything will change. And it's true. I mean, like right now, it's one way, but in a few short months, even weeks, something weird happens, and then everything, this Israel-Hamas thing, boom, it just hit. That we were not focused on anything like that happening. And it just
and look how that the position of that has even changed. October 7th, when the Hamas attack happened, there was a clear consensus on the position of Israel from the Republican aspect. It was, we stand with Israel. Those were the three. That was the 4 words. We stand with Israel. That's what everybody was saying. Now all of a sudden, the paradigm shift has happened where the extreme right MAGA base is now saying, "Oh no, we're not. We understand the plight, quote unquote, of the Israelis in the attack, but we're more focused on here. We should protect our southern border. Blah blah blah. This and that." Marjorie Taylor Greene came out and made a Instagram. Because they had to vote. They had to vote. What was that? Last week, I believe, for the emergency funding to Israel, and she voted against it.
Yes,
saying that I can't support money going to Israel. Then you had ultimately the beef between Candace Owens, and I don't know if you're gonna cover this or not.
It's coming up.
Okay, let me stop. Let me stop then. Let me stop.
Jump with the gun, MD.
Oh
yeah, let me stop. I'm shooting too much. I'm spraying the place.
So one other thing I wanted to mention on that highlight. So they had a point when they were talking about TikTok, and me personally, I'll never use TikTok. I don't see any time I'll ever use TikTok. I don't think I'm not a fan of it. But what I've started to realize, like, why are Republicans so mad at TikTok? Then I realized with data that came out, they realized that TikTok was a place where a lot of young voters were getting their information on politics. And it was overwhelmingly good for Democrats. And that is why Republicans are so hard nailed on attacking and eliminating TikTok, because it's given them a issue with the young voters, and they're at a deficit. So what do we think about the TikTok aspect of GOP war on TikTok?
I mean, at this point, I think they're gonna still. I mean, TikTok has its pros and cons, and let's face it, it's technological. It's one of them things where it's like a Twitter, slash Snapchat, slash Facebook put into one thing. I question though the merits of it, because on the conservative side, it used to be Democrats and conservative, where they taught this line of, oh, China owns it. It's owned by China, and they're stealing your information and all of this stuff. And I'm saying to myself, but there has to be more to it than that. I mean, not to say that that's not true, because if I was China, I would use the data behind it to due to manipulation and whatnot. But at the same length and breath, if it's a key this is the same party though, Van Cat, that complains that Taylor Swift is too powerful. Remember they said this a couple weeks ago, where they complained about Taylor Swift. Oh my God, Taylor Swift is corrupting the masses, all because she votes in line with democratic values. I mean, what did you think she was going to do? Say she was hardcore conservative? Like, she literally has always been democratic. She has a following, she has a crowd, she has a shift that if she buys something, the masses of her fan base is gonna, go get the same thing. Nothing has changed. I mean, that's always been a fanatic kind of thing when it comes to like celebrity status in this country. But with that being said, back to the TikTok thing, I think it's always been this thing where conservatives could have had the upper hand, but they choose not to when it came to
Technology.
Right. And it started when Obama came in. They could have had the upper hand there with McCain, but again, they said, oh, McCain was too old. It had nothing to do with old. It's more like you didn't shift. It's the same thing when BlackBerry had the opportunity to be further ahead of Apple when they came with the Apple phone. You chose to stick with what you knew, and the shift happened, and then you fell behind. It's the same thing with the TikTok crowd. You have to shift when it comes to anything technological based, and the younger demographics, they are finicky. So if it's easy and it's something that could be manipulated, they're going to go with it because, hey, this is easy for me. I know what I could do. I know where I could go. I know where I could get the latest video, the latest news. It's all in one spot. So that's how the Democrats panels are able to go in and use the technology that's there and use it to shift towards their advantage. Now, can the conservatives group do it? Of course they can. They just choose not to. So then you don't get to complain when the shift happens, and then you go, oh, but we could have been, or no, TikTok is bad. And please, this has always been the same argument where it goes round and round in the spinning wheel. It never seems to end. So, I mean, come on. This is like, you could do better.
What are your views on the TikTok politics thing, MD?
I mean, it's clear to me the reason that they attack hell, all social media is dumb. So why attack TikTok? The reason they attack TikTok is because it can't be regulated from a national level because it's not a national company. Period. The way they did, just think of it this way. Everybody remember Twitter before Elon Musk did it. It was highly regulated through DOJ, national security, blah blah blah, this and that, and people hated it. People got off Twitter because of it. When Elon Musk bought it, it was like a sigh of relief. Well, now it's not, but it was like a sigh of relief.
You're damn right.
It's now
right. In terms of why conservatives hate TikTok is because they can't regulate TikTok. You can't. I mean,
oh, poor conservative.
I mean, that's just what it is. You know what I mean? TikTok is bad because it's in China. That's why it's bad, and it all goes back to conservative ideology. You know what I mean? How are you going to explain to me that TikTok is destroying the moral fabric of America when Facebook, Instagram, Twitter,
Exactly.
YouTube, been doing it for years.
Exactly.
Let's go even further.
It's too late for that. The kid's dumb as hell already. It's too late. What you say, Ricardo?
No, I said we could go even further than that. We could go to High Five, if anybody remember that. MySpace, if anybody remember that.
MySpace. Yeah.
We could go all down the
I mean, hell, we've been stupid. You know what I'm saying? That ain't what. Now all of a sudden it's a moral struggle now. No, I ain't going for that. I ain't going for it. You mad because you can't regulate it, and the advertisement model is not the way that you like it. That's why you mad. You know what I mean? So yeah, let's cut the crap. Let's cut the crap. I mean that's a mute point to me. They even bring up TikTok is that like, why am I taking this? And this goes back to why I say conservatism is dead. Why am I taking seriously and y'all focusing on this section of the debate talking about TikTok? I don't give a damn. You know what I mean? That's just me.
I was need to say that because I'm sure Emmy does not give a crap about TikTok. That has nothing to do with anything.
I don't care. Your kid's stupid. Oh well. You know what I mean?
They keep bringing it up all the time. Every time, I always hear Republicans go off on TikTok. It's just weird.
Man, you need a distraction. Remember, this goes back to like Roman days. You always have to bring up a distraction when you need to hide something behind the closed door. So there's always going to be a distraction somewhere, whether it be a circus, something being unfolded in front of you, it's on prime time news or something. There's always going to be some distraction. TikTok is a distraction because again, I've yet to hear how do you utilize it to your benefit. Conservative people, you use it too. Some of them act like they don't use the damn technology. Some of them are even more advanced. They're laying in bed with some, you know what I'm saying? So you using that is a point. It's just so freaking dumb. These are young people. They're not. I mean, you should be finding ways to bring them into your fold, not like alienating them more.
That's what I'm saying. It's just senseless.
There's whole compilations of videos of right-wing MAGA folks on TikTok talking stupid stuff. Whole compilations of them.
All right. So we just reviewed or looked at some highlights of the Republican debate. Let's take a look at some polls and then Chris Christie's take on Trump's position.
We've gotten a steady stream of polls. They appear to all be suggesting the same thing, right?
They do. You know, if you see one poll that has a candidate 2 points down to another candidate, you say, okay, this race is within the margin of error. This poll's within the margin of error. But we've not just had one poll, not two, not three. We've had 4 recent polls nationally that suggest something very interesting. That is that Donald Trump, the former president of the United States, is ahead of Joe Biden, the current president of the United States, by anywhere from 2 to 4 points. Now, that's not a particularly large lead, but it is a lead that is very consistent throughout the polling. It's a lead that is holding in the swing states as well. So as we are a little bit less than a year out from the 2024 election, there's no other way I can insist on designating this race than one at this particular point that Donald Trump leads. Look, if you go back over the last 80 years, go all the way back to FDR, what do you see? You see there, in fact, have only been 2 incumbent presidents at this particular point in time who have actually trailed for re-election at this point since 1943. One of those, I think, is fairly familiar, given the last slide. That was Donald Trump back in 2020. He, of course, went on to lose. But Joe Biden is just the second president at this point to be trailing for re-election. The average incumbent, in fact, leads by a little bit more than 10 percentage points. So this is extremely unusual to find a president trailing by any margin, even one that's, say, 2 or 3 percentage points on average, as we saw in that first slide.
Okay, well, Biden just won 3 years ago. So what are the big reasons that he's now trailing?
Yeah, I would say it comes down to age. It's age in one way. It's age in the fact that voters overwhelmingly believe he's too old to be effective as president. We had a recent New York Times Siena College poll that found that about 70% of likely voters, in fact, said that, very different from 4 years ago when that number was about half. But it's also age in another way. It's age if you look within the electorate and see where Joe Biden has lost support. Take a look at voters under the age of 35. This is the margin, Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. 4 years ago, Joe Biden won these voters overwhelmingly. He won them by over 20 percentage points. Look at where he is now. Now, he's still ahead of Donald Trump, but he's only ahead by 5 points. And of course, elections are all about margins. When you look throughout the different age groups, you see essentially that Joe Biden's margins are actually holding amongst the older voters, but younger voters have been swinging away from him. And if this ends up being the margin on election day, it would be the smallest margin for a Democratic candidate among voters under the age of 35 since I was actually eligible to vote. So that's how long it's been. Donald Trump would absolutely take this.
And I think we deserve better as the Republican Party and as the United States than a guy who's going to be convicted of felonies this April to be our nominee, Chris, and to try to be our president.
By a bunch of liberal Democrats that are trying to take him down because they fear him.
No.
Guess what? If Chris Christie was
not
53%, by a bunch of liberal
Democrats.
They probably have your butt in the courtroom too.
No, I'm not going to put up with you saying that. He's going to be convicted by Mark Meadows, a founder of the Freedom Caucus, and his chief of staff, who he called the next James Baker. That guy is now testifying and will sit 20 feet away from Donald Trump in a courtroom, taking an oath and saying he committed crimes and he directed others to commit crimes, including me. That's what he's going to say.
All right.
And that's not some woke prosecutor. That's not some group of liberals. That's a guy who founded the Freedom Caucus in the House, a Republican from North Carolina, and his choice for chief of staff. Eric, I'm not a numbers guy. I'm a character guy. And when Mark Meadows gets on that stand, everything I've been saying about Donald Trump that you've been making fun of me about for months is going to wind up being true. The truth is coming, baby.
I don't make fun of you.
Come on.
No,
Don't interrupt me when I start to say things that make people uncomfortable.
I'm just a numbers guy. I'm just a numbers guy. It's insurmountable. Let's be honest. It is insurmountable to overtake
I'm a
Donald
character
Trump
guy.
by any of these people, unless, of course, something dramatic happens with Trump in his personal life, being convicted of something or worse.
Nothing dramatic could possibly happen in Donald Trump's life. Let's look at the conduct. His conduct on January 6th was reprehensible.
I disagree with that assessment.
Well, I don't know how you can. You stand
peacefully and patriotically is how you can. That's what he said that day.
Let me tell you something. That's not what he did.
That's what he said.
No, well, it's not what he did.
But
he then told them to march up to the Capitol. He knew that there were people in that
peacefully
audience
and
with
patriotically,
weapons.
though. Right?
No. That's not all he said.
Right.
You can focus on those three words.
That's a quote. You're paraphrasing. I'm paraphrasing as well. But there are arguments on both sides, right?
Well, no, there's not arguments on both sides, because when you incite people, as he did that day, and you see what the result is, even if he didn't intend for them to be violent, he saw them become violent, and he sat by and did nothing for 3 hours. Watched it on television from the White House. It did nothing to get people to stop it. In my view, that's beneath the conduct of someone who's been honored to have the presidency.
Okay. We got some poll numbers, and we got Chris Christie talking about Donald Trump. We'll go to Ricardo on this one. What's your initial thoughts here about the video we saw? The poll numbers, Trump and Biden, the two recent candidates or presidents, are the first two that pretty much have this weird distinction of being down in the polls a year before their election. What are your viewpoints on the video we just saw?
So in terms of how it's showing there, I think Uncle Joe is in a real heap of trouble. That's a lot of points that you're literally losing, and it's actually to the younger demographic at that. He needs to do far more than what he's doing right now. And I think most of that has to be attributed to the fact that he reached out to the moderate crowd of saying, I was going to get rid of student loans, and nothing came
Exactly.
Very careful with your messaging sometimes, because these people were holding out hope from the onset of you saying, oh, I'm going to get rid of the thing completely. And then it switched to, oh, I'm just going to get rid of $10,000 off the loan. And then it switched again. oh, we're gonna try to do certain things for like certain people who we're able to help out. It's the messaging. You have to be very careful, because now you're alienating that moderate crowd of people who are the younger votes that are like in the high school / or in the college crowd. And when you don't help those people out and you need their consistent vote, and it's leading into next year, that's a big issue. And focus group wise, if the polls are like indicating what I think it's indicating, he has a lot of work to do between now and next November. And this is where I feel like the Democratic Party has not been listening. They've just been told in this message of he's going to be fine. He's not old. He just celebrated his birthday, I think, not too long ago. So he actually is in the elderly crowd. Now, is that any better than Trump? Not really, because he's in the same category. So it's either now they're going to loosen up ends and say, all right, do we then need to pick somebody else that could be a challenger? Or they're just going to stick with what they know of and then go into it with, and I hate to say it again, I'm going to say this because I think it's something that keeps coming up in my mind. I'm not quite sure why it is. But I think they're going to use Joe to go into the election of saying, hey, he's competent, he's good, he's there, his faculties is all well. And then a couple months after that, they're going to pull out a fast one out of the hat, the rabbit out of the hat, and say, oh, he has to do a surgery because the doctor found something, and boom, here comes Kamala out of nowhere becoming the first female president. And I see it happening, and I'm going to call it out from now. I think that's what they're going to end up doing, and I don't like it. It's too easy for you to pick the rabbit out of the hat just so fickly. And I think they need to explore other options before we get to that point. It's one of them things where they've been trying their hardest to do it with Hillary. They're going to find a way to do it with Kamala, to push her in as the first female president, at that, the first African-American one. So it's something that I keep seeing as I guess, something that could, potentially manifest itself. And it's not even an if, it's a question of when, because remember, she's vice president. So I think that's how they're going to spin it. I hope it's not the angle that I think they're trying to go for, but they can do better. Again, if the polls are correct, because I don't believe in the polls since Trump came into power, because he said one thing and then it flipped completely after. So I think they have a problematic issue on hand when it comes to the moderate, younger demographical votes that needs to come into play here. I don't know if it's enough time to spin it, because when based on the PR stunt that he did with the whole student loan things, I think it's a little bit too late right now. But we will see, because it's a finicky crowd that we have when it comes to voting. But Uncle Joe is not looking good. Not.
The student loan thing with Joe Biden is kind of similar to when you had Daddy Bush. When Daddy Bush had his singular term, and he said, read my lips, no new taxes.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Then he sat in the chair of the presidency, and he looked at all the shenanigans Ronald Reagan did, and he's like, oh my God, I have to raise the taxes. This is not productive, and it's not responsible. So he did the right thing. He added the taxes that he needed to add, but the conservative Republican Party didn't like that. They don't want to deal with responsibility, even though that we're toted of they're telling us that they are that way, but they got his ass up out of there one term. So this is kind of similar. You have Joe Biden got the most votes in the history of votes in this country. And a lot of those votes came from young people. And Joe Biden, promised about doing those student loans. He talked about doing the minimum wage. He still didn't do it. He sabotaged that. I saw it happen on the Senate floor. He had people that were connected to him vote against the bill that he said he wanted passed. So right there, he was not genuine about it. He owes people a lot more than what those are the things that get to me with Joe Biden. There's other issues, but I mean, all these guys have issues. Come on. They all have issues, but I'm just saying there's going to be hell to be paid for those particular things. So it'll be a combination of that and hate for Trump, and we'll see which one comes to the top. MD, any opinions on the video we just saw with Chris Christie and the polls?
Yeah. So as far as the polls go, and Ricardo, to your point, you said like the moderates dealing with a specific issue as far as like the student loan. I would argue that a lot of it has to do with the progressive left. I think as far as right now, the progressive vote is done for Biden because he hasn't done nearly enough on the progressive side
Exactly.
to the voters. And again, going back to the Israel point, that's just a nail in the coffin for me. Your stance on Biden's stance on Israel was the nail in the coffin for the progressives in terms of how they viewed his policy. The black vote, hell, need I say more? You know what I mean? Like you ask any black person, they'll tell you he ain't did enough for black people, and even pinpointing that. Look no further than Chicago. Look no further than Chicago. And the Chicagoans are clearly saying, if this is what we got to deal with Joe Biden, we just not gonna vote for him. Now I'll say this: I believe that that in 2020 we had a historic high number of people that voted. I believe now this is just my prediction. In 2024, we're gonna have a historic low. Not saying it's gonna be the lowest. I ain't saying that, but it will be significantly lower than what we saw in 2024. Part of the reason is people just feeling different right now
Right.
from a federal level. You know what I mean? People feel like Biden hasn't done enough on the left side, and they're not voting for Trump. Hell, I would say they're not voting for any Republican candidate at this point. You know what I mean? So you're going to see a large number of people that's simply not going to vote. That's just what it is. You know what I mean? Not on the up ticket. They might vote down ballot, but as far as the presidency, like they just feel like why you know what I mean? Like why do I need to do it?
That happened to Hillary when that Bernie Sanders fiasco happened. The Bernie supporters dropped right out, and Hillary missed all of that. And hey, we know how that went.
But that
so I'm saying if Trump wins in 2024, it won't be because of his base. I just put it that way. It'll be for the lack of Democratic voters.
Good point.
And it's showing right now. To your point, Ricardo, Biden got a lot of work to do from here to election day. A lot of work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's gonna have to turn his position on a lot of things. And you kind of see it. Go ahead.
Oh no, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I just want to say it feels like you're saying he needs to do a lot of work, and it seems like the work he should be doing is literally what Chris Christie's doing. The way that Chris Christie comes about with Trump, first of all, nobody on the Republican side is doing that, and not even Biden isn't even doing that. You feel like Chris Christie is the one that's like going up against Trump, and he's the Democrat, because that's the Democratic response right there. That's the blueprint of what. Use his own record. That's the one thing you got. Just use his flawed record. All the bad, ugly, and ridiculousness. Use that, and that's it. He's gonna sink, and he won't be swimming.
Here's the kicker though, Venkat, and you didn't show this in the clip. And this goes back what I was talking about with Project 2025. The moderator asked if Trump is chosen as the Republican candidate for 2024, would you support him? Everybody on that stage raised their hand, including Chris Christie.
That's ridiculous.
So again,
that in itself is politics, though. That in itself is politics, right?
I agree. I agree.
They don't want the MAGA people to see that and get even more infuriated.
But that's spinelessness, though, because if you're saying one thing in terms of your rhetoric that you're trying to pushed for to becoming president, and then you're going to turn around and say, oh, but if we have no choice but to vote for Trump, I'm going to vote for him. That says a lot about you. This is why I said they're freaking spineless. If that's the case, I will go on record tonight and say I will vote for Robert Kennedy Jr. because this is just stupid to me. Like, you can't be going through all of this.
Well, now you're gonna have that Green Party crap happening. I don't like stuff like that, man. Where the vote just gets thrown out the book. I mean, no, man.
Again, I can't vote because this is where I keep calling it. I cannot vote for Uncle Joel here because the way you walk the line with Israel is one thing, but then you didn't do anything for my vote as a black person in terms of the country, and then you didn't do anything in terms of as a student then you didn't do that much. So it seems to me you're walking a safe line to only then turn around and make a pivot midway and then go, oh, I'm gonna come up with a brand new deal plan because I'm for the black people, and I'm gonna show up in church one of these days and say, oh, something about Bo when he was alive, and that's not gonna work. That, to me, that's the same pivot that they've always been doing, and I think a lot of people are waking up to it. It's a little bit like annoying to me. Try to find things that could appeal to the base that would like work. And again, I don't think they have enough time. That's the issue. So my main thing that keeps coming up in terms of the scenario is they're gonna come back to the one person who Kamala, because she's the token black vote that they haven't been using this whole time, because again, she's an afterthought. She's just a vice president that doesn't do anything. So then you're going to go back and pivot to her. It's dangerous rhetoric, and I don't think it's going to work this time. But because people are so finicky and they're going to use everything on their angle, the women's vote issue with the whole Roe v. Wade, then they're going to come up with, there's a whole bunch of stuff they could use to then get back into the playing field. My question now is, what is the conservative side going to do? Because then they have to pivot as well. Because don't forget, we haven't forgotten a whole bunch of stuff that they have done. So, in wake of what we're seeing, it's just dysfunctionality all across the board between both parties. It's just a matter of, are we finicky enough as a public voting group or block? Independent, Democrat, Republican-wise, or whatever we want to call it now, to then say we're going to vote for who, because nobody seems to know who they're going to be toting the line for, and it's not a clear right now. It's just a matter of what's the major issue at hand that's going to pivot the country. And if it's going to be gas prices or inflation, then that's going to be it. Because again,
my bad, Ricardo. So you saying that they're going to run Kamala in 2028 is what you're saying?
No,
that would be horrible.
Use her as some kind of angle to get that vote. Just like a stupid strategy, because you've had her all the time.
I gotta look up her poll numbers, like what's she polling at? Because if Joe Biden's low, she got to be lower.
More than
because Kamala Harris has literally done like nothing,
exactly,
like, at all.
Yeah,
and the things that she has done, I'm starkly against, like the Freedmen's Bank Forum. That's as me being a reparationist, that's a cardinal sin.
But what
you're talking about Freedmen's Bank Forum, and yet you got Chinese people on the forum. You got everybody but black people.
Oh.
So I mean, and I'll say this again, in terms of the progressive vote, you have to understand.
Mike,
what do you say? Oh, the VP.
Like, hey. The VP does do things. She walks away.
Yeah, and take selfies with black celebrities. That's pretty much all she do.
No, MD. Let's not forget, she was also a part of that. What you call the what you call it? That group of collegiates, women that dance around. What do you call them again?
Oh! She was a ski wee. Damn. What is that?
Ski wee.
So they
I don't know the sorority. What's the sorority? Black women. Where y'all at? The pink and the greens.
Something like that. I can't remember the name.
Yeah, the pink and the greens. I don't know what their name was.
But that's what.
But yeah, she was the pink and the green.
you're gonna use some angle to be like, see, I've always been black. But I'm like, what about your side? You're also part Indo. You're part of the Indian community, so you've yet to use that to your angle. But I digress.
She's Indian. I don't put any black in her. She's Indian. As a matter of fact, she's Brahmin Indian.
Somebody out in nature out there.
Yeah, she's Indian. I'm
hearing like little chirps going on in the background, like somebody's out in nature.
That might be me. Yeah, that might be. I got my window down, and it's like I don't know what that is. It's some type of bird. I don't know. My bad. I ain't know. Damn, that's crazy that y'all can hear that.
Yeah.
Let me say real quick.
Yeah.
Again, when we talk about the progressive, you can literally see with your own eyes what's happening to black people in Chicago in terms of the migration crisis. I've always said the number one issue, in my opinion, that black people are faced with is the migration situation. And you may not agree, that's fine. I'm saying that based on how the immigration policies are taking place, it's to our direct detriment as far as the voting base. Now, again, that's debatable. That's cool. But I can see the result in a city like Chicago, where they're literally being kicked out of schools, literally getting kicked out of community centers based on housing migrants. Not only that, they're being leapfrogged in terms of employment, social services, so on and so forth. So in my mind, when I say based on that policy, the Republicans can give that to me, I'm faced with a critical situation in terms of how I identify policy-wise. Do I like Trump? Hell no, I don't like Trump. But is Trump going to give me that policy that may save the black community as a whole? That's the question where a lot of people are saying. So in that aspect, Biden got a lot of work to do, like you said, Ricardo. I'll just leave it at that. Do you still hear the bird?
We still hear it.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
It's fine. Hey, so
I rolled my window up. My bad.
I'm going to go into the Shapiro-Owens feud real quick. Be right back on the other end.
Holiday party might be spicy this year, with commentators Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens continuing to feud over the proper response to the conflict between Israel and Hamas. In a recently leaked video, Shapiro criticized Owens for her, quote, absolutely disgraceful behavior on this subject. Let's watch.
Yes, the question was about Candace Owens. I think her behavior during this has been disgraceful. Without a doubt. Been absolutely disgraceful. I think that her faux sophistication on these particular issues has been ridiculous. It's not faux sophistication, it's ridiculous. Everybody can see the moves that she's making and the things that she's saying, and I find them disreputable.
There's been a feud brewing between Daily Wire co-founder Ben Shapiro and one of his colleagues, Candace Owens, and boy, is it heating up. So as a refresher, Ben Shapiro has accused his Daily Wire colleague of being disgraceful for her stance on the war in Gaza. No government anywhere has the right to commit a genocide ever. There is no justification for a genocide. I can't believe this even needs to be said or is even considered the least bit controversial to state. Now, as many of you know, there are some perspectives on what Israel is doing in Gaza. There is the issue of ethnic cleansing. Some see this as a genocide. Clearly, that is what Candace Owens is referring to here. And she also had a conversation with a Jewish comedian by the name of Ami Kozak on her show and said a few interesting things. Let's take a look.
People are feeling like they can't even speak about this subject, or they can't talk to a person like the way that you and I are speaking without being called a Jew hater. And so it's kind of creating this weird situation where actually, it's furthering the problem to keep calling people Jew haters. It's furthering the problem to call people anti-Semitic. It would be more helpful to actually try to see where you connect and see how you're feeling, because it humanizes things. It's like, listen, I'm not Jewish, so I don't feel as radically or as motivated as you do about this situation that's happening. I am being selfish and American and saying I don't want a single dollar to go overseas because we've been in a bunch of useless wars, and that might be upsetting to hear. But there's no anti-Semitism in my heart when I say it. It's just me being consistent in how I've always felt.
And after that video of Ben Shapiro calling her stance on Israel disgraceful went public, she put out a pretty cryptic tweet. No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money.
Wow.
And by the way, yeah, she says that. It's cryptic, but I mean, everyone assumed that she was referring to Ben Shapiro there, right? Well, Ben Shapiro today responded, and here's what he said. Candace, if you feel that taking money from the Daily Wire somehow comes between you and God, by all means, quit.
By all means, quit is a great line, though.
Okay, so she responded to that. You've been acting unprofessional and emotionally unhinged for weeks now, and we have all had to sit back and allow it, and have all tried to exercise exceeding understanding for your raw emotion. But you cross a certain line when you come for scripture and read yourself into it. I will not tolerate it. She also said, you are utterly out of line for suggesting that I cannot quote biblical scripture. The Bible is not about you. Damn.
All right, MD. What do you think about the the ongoing feud here with Owens and oh God, I forgot his name now. Shapiro.
Ben Shapiro, yeah.
Yeah, Shapiro.
I mean, again, it's a microcosm of what's going on in the conservative party right now. Ben Shapiro has for years been one of the leading voices of conservatism in this country. He's a Jewish person. So I guess, indirectly he's affected by what happened on October 7th. Then you got a person like Candace Owens, who's a staunch Christian nationalist. And the wide variety of the MAGA base are Christian nationalists. Now we at an impasse. How am I supposed to? Now I'm saying from the perspective of Ben Shapiro. How do I supposed to defend what Israel is doing and also, I guess, streamline my conservatism when it comes to politics in the United States? You can't do it because it's been a long history of, if you want to call it anti-Semitism, that's cool. But it's been a long history of anti-Semitism, for the lack of a better term, within Christian nationalist ideology. So now we gotta do some sparring as far as positioning, right? When it comes to the MAGA base, whatever they want to hear, the talking heads are gonna say it. Out comes Candace Owens quoting Bible verses and all type of stuff on Twitter, and Ben Shapiro got to defend it based on his Jewish root. So what are we talking about? Are we talking about a nationalistic aspect of conservatism, or are we talking about a special interest aspect of conservatism? Is it plausible to differentiate between the two? I don't think it is. But is it plausible? Based on what they're doing right now, I guess it is. Because Candace Owens is viewing it from a Christian aspect, and Ben Shapiro is viewing it from a Jewish aspect. At this point, throw conservative ideology out the window. Again, conservatism is dead. Now, in the aspect of the Tucker Carlson interview, and that I laughed when I first saw it because I couldn't really actually believe what I was hearing. Tucker Carlson acquiesced that how can I then support Israel from a national aspect in the conservative view when, according to him, Jews in America help perpetuate, quote unquote, now y'all, anti-white genocide or ideology in large universities and colleges. So now it's breaking down to a point where we're dealing with race, religion, and social ideology at this point. Going back to the point saying, who's going to have the balls? Let's just keep it real. Who's going to have the balls to say something politically against Israel? Will it be Biden or will it be Trump? Now, I would argue that if I had to guess, it would be Trump based on the rhetoric of his base. But it's in stark contradiction. It's in stark contradiction because last I checked, when all this started, all of y'all was saying we stand for Israel. That was the 4 words that everybody was saying.
Yep.
But now you done flipped the script based on ideology. So that's where I'm at with it. Like I said, who's gonna have the balls to actually say something against Israel from a presidential level, whether Trump is the president or not? If Trump says anything, now he done said something about Netanyahu already, but that's political jargon. We're talking about the state of Israel in and of itself. If Trump comes out and I guess parrots this ideology, we're gonna have the next story for TFP.
Okay, Ricardo.
Yeah, I agree with MD there. It's gonna be it will be ironic though if Trump ends up coming out. And God, I mentioned his name. I should be saying you know who. If he comes out and say, you know what, this whole fiasco with Netanyahu, I just don't support. I mean, I've talked to the guy. I've met with him. I know how he thinks, but I'm going to be bold-faced and speak directly to him right now and say, and that's all I want. Just somebody to just say, listen, I'm looking straight in the face now, Netanyahu, and say to you, what you doing there right? And I will go as far as the president to say, I would hope the Hague, the UN Council and whatnot, charge you for war crimes for what you've been doing. If one of them could have the balls to say that, you have my vote. Because right now everybody's doing this spin around the rosy angle of I don't want to be on the wrong side. It's not about, and I say this, and I always say this every week when I come on here, call out wrong when it's wrong. Because we can't be speaking from one message for Ukraine and we're not doing the same thing for Israel. That's not going to work for anybody. It's clearly not working. The fact that you have the Chinese premier come into the United States, and mind you, this is the same country that literally, if you're watching the news, actually, in California, in San Francisco, that they have a huge homeless problem. Would you believe they cleared up all those homeless people on the routes that the Chinese president would have been?
Cleared them. It's like they had a giant broom and just swept them away.
Swept them out of the way. Everything is pristine, clean. It was as if nobody was there. There's no shanty, town or homelessville or nothing of that sort. And I find that so funny that they will go out of their way to do that, but you can't do anything else. So who you trying to impress? Because he already saw all of that already. So I don't know why would you then? I would have let him see all of that. But again, in the face of what we see, in terms of propaganda, they could never allow that because that would go back to the Chinese media, and believe you me, they would spin that out of control. But it's one of them things with Candace. Again, Candace Owens is very polarizing. polarizing. She says something sometimes and I go, what the hell is she talking about? And then there's other times when she goes and she says something and she gets the alphabet community and I'm like, damn, girl just hit it out of the ballpark. Like, she don't put up on crap. So MD has a point there where I really do agree with. There's a fine line between strong Christian nationalism or nationalistic viewpoints, and then there's the Zionistic crowd. And I think now we're getting to the point where the differentiation is going to be an issue because they made it an ideological issue. And I think that's where it becomes a little bit too clouded and muddy, because now they're saying, oh, if you speak out against what Israel is doing, you're anti-Semitic. That is not what anti-Semitic, from what I remember, that is not what anti-Semitism is. But all of a sudden, if I'm not agreeing with somebody who is deliberately going out of their way to say, oh, Israel has a right to do so and so. No, baby, you don't have a right to do anything if you are doing wrong things when it comes to atrocities. You're killing people, killing innocent children. All of that comes at the face of, well, now you're just doing things deliberate, because then you blew up a hospital and then you said it wasn't you, but clearly it was. So then if you are wrong and then you're going to come out of left field and say, oh, but I think it was our missiles, but we were trying to aim for the truck that they were in. That's BS, because you clearly still killed innocent people to try to get your viewpoints across. That doesn't work. This is not going to work in this day and age. And again, I've said this from the onset. When you have people on X, formerly known as Twitter, people on Facebook, people on YouTube, we don't even have to be on CNN anymore, because
I don't recognize X.
Yeah, like you could go on any social platform and see things in real time. You can't spin the narrative anymore when it comes to propaganda anymore, because things are in real time now. We heard Michael Jackson died 1 hour before, like 1 hour after he died, or probably like 15 minutes into his death. We knew automatically, everybody was on social media, and it just went from there. You cannot spin a narrative for propaganda anymore. You can, yes, in some, but people are not that dumb. I would hope we're not, because we can see things in real time. It's not.
But Ricardo, the propaganda is not even good. Have y'all been seeing the memes I've been putting up?
Oh, we see
on the, like, it's not. Their propaganda is, this is probably the worst propaganda I've ever seen. It's stupid.
But that's the thing, though, MD.
Yeah.
To censor anything that they see that people are seeing that they can't spin for it, and that to me is like, what are you doing? Because if I see is, then you're gonna try to use the alternative facts angle, like, oh, maybe it might have been us, or maybe it was some kind of universe that is just complete. No, it's you. You're the one that's doing it. So again, I question how you're gonna try to then spin that, because then when we speak out, or when Candace speaks out, or anybody who is of strong Christian nationalistic viewpoints, then you're gonna say, oh, but no, they're anti-Semitic. Oh, they're not for Israel. No, that's not what that is about. That's us saying to you, as human beings, people who have rational minds of thinking, is saying you can't do certain things and then not be reprimanded for it. That's not how that works. You can't.
Ricardo, let me break it down to you like this. The word Semitic is basically talking about the language tree of a group of people. Those languages include Hebrew as well as Arabic. By logic, now we using logic here, Ricardo.
We are.
By logic, Arabic people would also be Semitic, based on the language that they speak.
They speak, or Aramaic, which is another form of the language that Jesus spoke. So yeah, I mean, but then again, that's where I question, is this Zionistic points, or is this just people saying that they're Hebrew points? There's a difference between the two, because you're pushing the Zionistic point of view, which is, to me, it's like, oh, it's everything Israel, but then is it really? Because then Palestine was always a country for Israel. So what is this that you're then saying that, oh, anybody who is not speaking for or on Israel's side is anti-Semitic? That's just dumb. It doesn't have to be. And then it's the ideological point of view where, and I say this because I said in the chat, where's the evangelical crowd? Because then you're the voting bloc that is going to then push. We are the largest Christian country on earth. So if when it comes to vote and you want us to then vote in line with Israel, because again, we need Israel and Israel need us, is that the point of view they always push. What happens then now when the Christian groups start let's say deflecting, but more going, atrocities are bad here, Israel. So we shouldn't be giving you our money because you're killing innocent people. Then what are they going to see when that start happening? Because then now it's like, oh, everybody's they did this big old rally in Washington. Oh, everything is Israel. And this is this and this. And I'm like, so then nobody's going to say that Israel has been doing certain things and we're calling them out on it. We're not supposed to do that. Okay. I back off. It's a deflecting from me from both sides. I need somebody to come out and say, yo, Israel, Netanyahu, your people, your premiers, and blah, blah, blah. You want us to give you billions of dollars. But what are you doing to really then stop the atrocities that you're doing? Nobody's like saying none of that. It's more like, yo, you should annihilate this person. You should annihilate. But what about innocent bystanders that are in the pits of the whole thing here happening? Like, do they not matter? Do all lives not matter anymore if we put it that way? It's crazy. It's like we're in a twilight zone. The alternative universe.
I saw Trevor. I saw Trevor's comment. Even if you want to use that, paradigm, it's still the same thing. It's Shem. We talking about Ishmael and we talking about Jacob. Same thing. If you want to use that paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
So if we saying Semitic versus Shemitic, it's still there. Like you can't get around it. You know, if you want to go with the notion that Arabs are, quote unquote, from the seed of Ishmael, there you go. You know what I mean? Even though, and that's another misnomer. When we say Arab,
mm-hmm.
we're talking about basically the Arabic language. When we say an Arab person, that doesn't specifically mean that they're Arab in the sense that they're from the land of Arabia. No, it's an Arabized person that's speaking the Arabic language. So that's why you got North Africa considered Arabs, because they're speaking Arabic. That don't necessarily mean that they're of Arab origin or Arabian origin. They North African people. They Berbers, they Tunis, so on and so forth. But we call them Arabs because they speak Arabic. That's where that comes from. A lot of people mischaracterize that too. But that's a different topic.
Mm-hmm, for another time. But yeah, I get your point, because it's just like the modern day Egyptians that are there. Are they really Arabic, or are they, like, would you call them the invaders? But that's a whole other conversation for another time.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go there with you, Ricardo, because I disagree with that. I'm not gonna go there.
All right. So I just wanted to go in real quick on a video I recently saw with Carrie Lake. She lost her bid to be governor in Arizona in the elections last year. She was a major Trump supporter. She bought into a lot of the election lies, and she paid for it in the ballot. Now, there's a segment of the Republican Party that MD always talks about. They feel more isolated, the classic conservatives. So here's one speaking to Carrie Lake, and let's take a look at this exchange.
I'm not okay with that. I want you to be able to talk whatever you guys say on the circus. I want to be able to have conservative students not being shamed on our universities.
This is like a golden age for conservative student speech. It's like, it's the best time ever. If you're a conservative student, you want to talk, you have huge platforms. I went to watch you speak at Turning Point USA. All these kids have huge audiences that come to see them, and that's great. That's fine. They're all speaking. Their speech isn't as a threat. There weren't any cops coming to shut down the Turning Point USA thing. But here's the thing. You say you care about the fentanyl crisis and our kids.
I care deeply.
Okay, right. So if you care so deeply about this, couldn't you actually do something about it if you stopped the bullshit about the last election? If you had just acknowledged that Trump had lost and acknowledge that you had lost, you'd probably be in good shape to do something. You probably would have won your governor's race had you just talked about things people cared about instead of the election fraud. So sometimes don't you ever think to yourself, I wish I could just stop talking about this fake thing that Donald Trump made me make up so that I could actually talk about the stuff that's important? Because we agree about fentanyl. I agree. I wish we could deal with that.
I talked about that all the time on the campaign trail. I'm sorry you weren't with me.
You.
I'm sorry you weren't with me every step of the way. The people of Arizona understand me, and they know me, and they care about me, and I care about them. And I care about that. Getting them better, freeing the people who are held political prisoners. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I think you are still a little extreme. That's okay though. It's good to see you again.
It's wonderful
to see you.
That's right. I'd love to.
We have some areas of agreement.
Love to.
We agree on the fentanyl thing,
and
then you get into the other stuff.
Oh,
but the other
sorry,
stuff is
I'm
what
not
you have to do. The other
I'm
stuff
sorry,
you have to
I'm
do
not
to
making
win.
you happy.
The other stuff is what I don't know why you're touching me. The other stuff is what you have to do to win. Is the thing. That's
sorry,
the thing.
I'm a mom. I'm sorry, I'm a mom.
That's okay. I like to touch too, but in an interview setting, it's a little uncomfortable.
I'm sorry that we don't agree on everything, but what I am not sorry about is that I think that I do believe that we can agree that we both love America.
We do. Well, I know that I love America. I do think that you were okay with Donald Trump trying to end the American experiment last time. So that makes me wonder how sincere your love is. But I do appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Good. Thank you for your time.
That man right there is Tim Miller, a lifelong Republican and nightmare fuel for people like Carrie Lake. And if you're anything like me, you'll spend most of your day wondering what happened to all those normal people in the Republican Party who actually do value decency and honesty. And the truth is that they exist. There are people like Tim Miller who admittedly don't make up very much of the conservative base anymore, but who obviously didn't vanish from the face of the earth. And to that point, I actually interviewed Tim in January of this year and asked him about this exact phenomenon, about what conservatives like him do now that the party has left him, and here's what he had to say. With that said, you were a longtime Republican consultant. There are a small faction of you out there. Like, where do you fit into politics today? Because, you know, I hear a lot about these moderate Republicans, these Reagan Republicans, but that Republican Party doesn't actually exist in practice. So we're in a moment where, like, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is a 9/11 truther, is sitting on the Homeland Security committee. Like, that's what the Republican Party looks like today. So I guess where do you fit into this?
Certainly don't fit in there. And I tried to fight within the party. We tried to recruit a primary against Trump in 2020 and didn't recruit any strong candidates. And after all the Stop the Steal stuff, I officially left the party in 2020 because it just felt hopeless. But we still are pretty important, right? We're not, with us former Republican types, swing voters, moderate types, we might not be enough to control either of the parties, obviously, that have moved away from us. But if you just look at 2022, you know, this isn't kind of popular to say in progressive spaces, but like if you just look at the numbers, with exception of young voters, like the core Democratic groups didn't turn out as high as Republican groups. Young voters turned out higher than they tended to, so that helped Democrats in certain places. But Republican base turnout was higher than Democratic base turnout in 2022. The reason why Republicans did worse was because people that identified as as maybe 8% of people that identified as Republicans nationwide, in different districts, voted for the Democrat because they're like, this party is so crazy. That's why the Democrats won, did better than expected and held the Senate. And so I think it's an important group that frankly, the Joe Biden Democratic Party is talking to now more than the Republican Party is talking to. We'll see if the Republicans learn their lesson for 2022. I don't see any evidence that they have. But right now, like the reality is we're just my people, like the Romney, Clinton, Biden people, like we're just homeless and we're just going to be. And many of us are, for all practical purposes, Democrats until the Republicans get their shit together. And like you said, I don't see that on the horizon.
I've spoken to Mike Murphy about this, who is another Republican who came on to speak with me. But just kind of this idea of, would you kind of vote for Democrats? And Mike said no, but like I think it's going to be different here. But would you vote for Democrats to hasten the demise of the Republican Party as it stands now, until up from the ashes will emerge a different Republican Party?
God love Mike Murphy. You know, there's nothing false about hope, and he's a sweet guy and a smart strategist and won a lot of campaigns, but he's just hoping for a party that's going to come back that's not ever going to come back. And so I think that's why he answered the question the way he did, because he thinks, in good faith, this isn't a criticism, in good faith, he thinks it's worth it to fight for the party, pick the handful of good Republicans that are still out there, your Mitts, your Adam Kinzingers or whatever, and work with them. My view, I'm more aligned to your view, which is I think that that the Republican Party isn't going to actually reform itself until it feels like it's not viable. Look at what happened to the Democratic Party in the 90s with Clinton, right? Like, why did the Democrats move to the middle in the 90s? Well, because they just got their ass beat 2 straight times, or 3 straight times, excuse me, in overwhelming blowout fashion. And so they're like, we have to go to the middle. Now, maybe some of the progressive listeners didn't like that move, okay? But like, that's what it was. It was a practical move. Right. If the Republicans are ever going to move back to a sanity, they're going to need to lose. And so I do think that that for now, I think that I'm essentially in an uneasy coalition, mostly with Democrats, and might be different on a case by case basis.
Well, the irony of that is that Republicans had the opportunity to do that. I mean, they were repudiated at the ballot box, and so they should have taken that as an opportunity to retool and figure out like what didn't work and change those things moving forward. But by virtue of kind of like burying their heads in the sand and doing this political theater where they pretended that that they didn't lose an election that they very clearly lost, it kind of took that opportunity away from them to retool and present themselves better to their own voters so that they could win the next time. And then the next time they lost again. And so they kind of, they did it to themselves, right?
Yeah. Look, none of them listen to me anymore. My old friends who stuck around with the party. But I was screaming this from the rooftops. Had they convicted him during the second impeachment, instead of Mitch McConnell going out there and giving the speech about how his principles, but then voting to acquit, had they convicted him, he would have been barred from running in 2024. Now, that would have pissed off some MAGA people. And so 2022 probably still wouldn't have been great for Republicans because on the other side, they would have lost MAGA voters, not voters in the middle.
But probably less than the amount of Republicans who defected to the Democrats.
Yeah, exactly. And so then you could have built for the future, right? So they had this opportunity right in front of their face. They just needed to get 17 Republicans. They got 7. They needed to scrounge 10 more to convict his ass, ban him from running, and say, this is not us, this is not our party. And maybe they could have built from that. That, I think, was the critical error. And now I feel like we're in a spot where we're many cycles away from being able to fix it.
Okay, very interesting video there. Talking about, really, Carrie Lake getting a reality check. And then a nice analysis on, like, the issues within the Republican Party. MD, what were your takeaway on this video?
Yeah, that was great. You might have to send me that, Van Cat. That I agree with damn near everything he said. And that goes to show you again the derision amongst the conservative aspect of Republicans is the reason behind all of this. Now, in terms of being physically conservative, that's that's debatable in terms of being the overall ideology of republicanism. I'm fiscally conservative in the aspect of how we spend money, blah blah blah, this and that. When you talk about being a moderate Republican, again, like you said, you always usually go back toward Reagan. Now, is that something that we can do in like this generation? You're gonna be hard pressed because the numbers are not the same as they were in the 80s. A lot of people will say, especially like the Gen Xers, like the early Gen Xers, the late boomers, that under Reagan it was this great time because we had middle income tax cuts, blah blah blah, this and that. But try to plug and play that into today's society where that same amount of money really is not getting you anywhere. You know what I mean? In terms of overall income is what I'm talking about. So yeah, it's cool to say that you're a moderate Republican, but is it viable today? That's the question that needs to be asked. Now, in terms of progressive policy, again, progressives tend to go toward how we view social issues from the overall aspect of everybody. You can't pick and choose where those policies go. They're supposed to be for everybody. So that's the part I disagree with him about. So if you're gonna be Democrat, just be a Democrat all the way. Like, you know what I mean? Why not shy away from?
Well, he's using a strategy that pretty much he realizes, in his estimation, that for the Republican Party to get to where they need to be, he used the example of Clinton. We had in the show where we did Obama versus Trump. I think at one point Mike was saying about he doesn't want Obama to be another Clinton, but technically Clinton was a very successful president. But the thing was, Clinton had to go more towards the middle right because Ronald Reagan, his first run in 1980, that was a real landslide. I mean, it was a huge victory. There was no shot at the. I don't even remember the guy name anymore. That was on the Democratic ticket, but it was a huge win.
Jimmy Carter didn't
no
didn't rerun, right?
No.
Okay, all right. Because in my opinion, Jimmy Carter is the most progressive president that we ever had.
I would say that too. Yes, I would say that.
Okay, all right.
But and then they lost 3 elections straight. The Democratic Party. So he's saying once you have that kind of crushing defeat, the party is, even though they're reluctant to do it when it's happening, at a certain point you're at such a ground zero that you are forced to change your approach, and now you can get more common sense or a little bit more reasonable policies to attract the other side or independents. Right now, the Republican Party is so off to the right that the things. It's not even really about policies. It's more about clowning liberals and doing everything but the things we need to do, which is to govern and legislate. And they're not doing that right now. So if the Republican Party, which they've been losing election after election, but in 2024, this will be the second main election that they lost. He's hoping that with the loss will come actual true change. And with that change, he'll have an opportunity to build back up the Republican Party the way it used to be. That's his hope on doing that.
Yeah. I agree with that. I agree with that aspect. But again, in terms of trying to bring back this classic moderate Republican ideology.
Jimmy Carter, in 1980. Yeah, Maria G clarified that.
Yeah, and let a moderate Republican tell it. Jimmy Carter destroyed the economy. That's why we needed Reaganomics. Again, another topic for another day.
A controversial one, but which one did you say was the most conservative president that you've ever had? You brought up a point just now. I didn't get that point.
No. I said that Jimmy Carter was the most progressive president.
Right.
But besides, I'll say the most progressive just because was FDR, because he had to do a lot of different stuff. But
you too. Yeah.
But that's by default. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in terms of putting policy, he ain't had no choice. It was the Great Depression.
Yeah.
But But in terms of like trying to be progressive, like genuinely trying to, and I think Jimmy Carter was a genuinely progressive person.
He was.
Right.
So you know what I mean? Jimmy Carter cared about like people, like for real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
That for humanity. Yeah.
Right. So like he was an actual genuine person.
His wife recently passed away a few days
ago. Yeah, she did.
And I hate to say it, but don't be surprised if he goes out not too long after, because they've been a dynamic duo. So I can't foresee him not being where it is.
Over 70 years married. Yeah. Who like I can't even imagine. You know what I mean?
Right.
I wanted to chime in and say it's this ideology of if you can't beat them, join them kind of thing that I'm hearing a lot from the people that want to be Trumpers, but then are still holding on to that slither of hope that there's some kind of values left in the GOP. The grand old party is still there. Nah, it's gone. Like there's no way you're gonna get it back. What I think you will see though, and I've been calling this since Trump won, is that you're going to see a fusion of a purple party about where there's red and blue, And somewhere in the middle, they're going to find some common ground and say, hey, listen, you don't like me, I don't like you, but we need to meet somewhere in the middle of the ground and find some commonality and let's move forward. I think that's pretty much where you're going to get at, because everything that we've seen so far is in a disarray. When Trump came in, he literally just came in like a hurricane and just decimated everything left, right, and center for the GOP. And now they're picking up the pieces, and some people are saying, hey, J6 happened, and y'all ought to be ashamed of yourself. And then some people are like, oh, well, it wasn't so bad. I mean, what he didn't know, baby. You know when you are treasonous, you're treasonous. And if it was a set of people let's just call it for what it is. If it was a bunch of black people that end up doing that, you would have seen them came up with the army. You would have seen them came up with the so-and-so, and it would have been a whole big old thing. So let's not kid ourselves there. What is done and what was seen done on that particular day was beyond treason. So we're going to call it for what it is. It was bad and he didn't do anything. So now they're just pivoting, and then now they're saying, oh, but maybe it was kind of bad, but maybe it was kind of not. No. You see what I'm saying? So to me, it's a fusion of, if you can't beat them, join them. So now everybody's looking forward to 2024, and we're going to say, oh, well, this is what's going to happen. Well, if Trump is going to come in, then I think this is going to happen. So then this is why I always keep asking conservative people that I know, who are you going to vote for? You know what I keep hearing? Well, and it's the if Trump gets elected, then I might have to vote for him. But I'm like, but he has no conservative values. So how are you going to vote for somebody who's conservative who has no conservative values? If you're
Exactly.
So then they're like, well, I'm going to have to pick somebody to vote for anyways. But conservatism, if you're going to go by the mantra of what it is, doesn't it then fall into the accord of you picking somebody who has strong conservative values? No, they still can't. It's like they pivot to something else completely different. And I'm like, okay, I'm arguing with a rock, so it ain't gonna work.
But I disagree with that though. Yeah, me and you know that Trump don't give a damn about conservatism. You know what I mean? We know that.
We know.
But we talking about a paper tiger. We're talking about values being instilled in a person that exudes a certain ideology. That's where MAGA comes into play. You know what I mean? Trump is standing in front of a church and hold up a Bible. He'll do that all day. He'll talk about giving the death penalty to people, quote unquote, human trafficking.
Mm.
He'll say all these things based on what his constituency wants.
Mm.
So that's why you're seeing the Republican shuffle, with all these people, including Kari Lake, parroting talking points based on an ideology. It has nothing to do with the value system of conservatism. Nothing.
No, it doesn't.
It's a play sheet that everybody's reading off of.
It's a dirty game. What country do you live in, Mike?
Mike is coming in with it. We live in the United States of America, Mike. We live in a country that's supposed to be the beacon of hope for everybody else to look at. I don't know what kind of beacon of hope they're looking at now, because when January 6th happened, everybody was like, what in the hell was that? We don't know that America anymore. What is this? Is that still America that we grew up liking? It still is, but you still want to come here, but is it like the right place? I mean, let me echo what Kamala said. Don't come. Don't come. I don't know what that was, but don't come. if you're that one, that to me was like, what in the hell was that? Like, you were put in place for immigration sideshow step thing with that's what they put her as, and that was the comment you made, was don't come here. Man, I mean,
she's horrible, man. She's horrible.
The conservatives went ham on that one. Like, that one, I don't think she could ever live down. It's just no. The messaging was all tied up in a whole bunch of faux pas nonsense that made no sense. But we digress. This is where again where we stand in terms of, if you can't beat them, join them. I don't know what's going to happen to the Cheneys that went on to speak out against the J6 thing. What happened to all those people? The Dick Cheneys, the daughter Cheney, the Rumsfeld, all them people. where do they stand? Because then is the GOP not a party of, but we're not going to say values anymore. There's no values. You literally saw from the beginning of the show until now where they're fighting and bickering and I'm going to do a duel with you and all this nonsense. Then what does the grand old party stand for now? So if it's not conservatism, is it just money and power? Is that what it is? Because we can go by that. Populism is the echo and beacon of what this whole party stands for. Then, if that's the case, then just say we're rooting for money, because that's all we see is the optics of money being powerful for a block of people that want to rule indefinitely. They don't want to leave. They want to grow old and just get mingy and just die in power. And I mean, that doesn't work for the younger demographical block that is seeming hopeless at the bottom. Like, you just don't want to help them. So they're just going to stick on TikTok and talk about stuff that values for them. So, I mean, they have to pick something or somewhere where it's like you're going to help the younger demographical vote that is still, what about those people? And again, I keep calling, where is the evangelical group that is supposed to be there for this party? Are they still there? Are they still Trumpers, or are they just pivoting to being Trumpers? Because if you're Trumpers, just see that you are. You can't be
Ricardo, the evangelicals are the Trump supporter. There ain't no difference. Evangelical and Christian nationalists is synonymous in America.
They have this got to be a difference though, MD, because I mean, you can't say you're evangelical and then say you're a Trumper. Like, that don't make sense at all to me.
It makes sense to the Trump supporters because John Hagee said it on TV. That's why it makes sense.
So real quick, what do we think about, like, towards the end of the video, they were talking about really a missed opportunity by the Republicans, where they could have, impeached him, had him off the ballot in 2024. You take a little hit, but you took a hit anyway. They didn't know, but they took a hit anyway in 2022.
They sure did.
And you would pretty much not have Trump in the way, and you could get, I mean, think about it. The inflation, Biden's unpopularity at the moment. You have all this stuff going. If you had Chris Christie or if you had Nikki Haley, you probably, I mean, in the polling, there's a few candidates from the Republican debates that have a good polling number against Biden. Some better than what Trump has against Biden. Trump only has a 2 to 4 point lead on Biden, whereas there's bigger leads from a Nikki Haley and others. So that's a missed opportunity on the Republican Party right there. If they would have just impeached his ass, like the guy said, they would be in a different reality right now.
Agree. But again, remember, we talked about the facade of showing solidarity. That's why he's still here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? These people, the vast majority of Republicans do not like Donald Trump. Let's just keep it real.
Yes.
They don't like him.
I agree with that. I agree with that one.
But when you have an ideology put into place where you have to show some sort of I guess you would say restraint in terms of how we view the overall totality of the GOP, you take sacrifices such as standing with Trump, even though you don't like it. This it's been like this since 2016. Let's just keep it real. It's been like this since 2016. He also talked about when the impeachment process was going on, and McConnell was with it. The turtle was with it at that particular time. But then all of a sudden, they had some back talks, and next thing you know, McConnell voted to acquit.
Yep.
And so did many other Republicans.
Yeah, they just followed suit.
Right.
Right. So again, we're talking about them trying to show us, meaning the American voter, that the glue is form fitted within the Republican Party when we know that's not the case. You know what I mean? So why not just stand on your principles and war game, like Trevor said?
They ain't gonna do that. They're not gonna stand on no damn principles. They're not gonna do that. They spineless as hell. That ain't gonna happen. Because if that was the case, they would have done it by now. Nobody seems to be doing anything but then saying, oh, when it's convenient to bring up Agent 45, when it's convenient for them. But then, it's like, oh, but behind closed doors, again, what you're saying is true. They don't like the dude. They don't want to put up with it, but then they have no choice. It is what it is. They're just going to go and tote the line until he finally gets eliminated altogether. Whether that be between the trials that are coming up in a few months, or if it's when people just stop giving him the attention that he doesn't need. I just don't know when that's going to be, but it has to be at some point, because this ain't it. I mean, nah, this is definitely not it. But again, nothing surprises us anymore. This is just about money and politics, which is all
right. Remember last week, Ken Buck, I believe he's from Colorado, the congressman out of Colorado, he said he's not going up for re-election because he don't like the way the party going. So he going home.
Little bit too late for that one. But
there's a lot of Republicans that have done that too over the years.
Dude, even Manchin is not coming back for the Democratic side. That's independent vote. So
yeah,
I run for election. So I mean, it says a lot. I think a lot of people know they're not going to get the votes going forward from certain constituents in certain blocks. So why bother? So you're going to see them come out, and come out of the woodworks and start saying stuff like, "Oh, I was never for Trump. I don't believe in his ideology, his ideological way of thinking." But meantime, we were like, you could have said something the whole time. So you wait until you know you're not going to get the votes anymore, to then come out of the woodworks to say, "Oh, I'm not for him." Blah blah blah. It just doesn't work. So,
and the numbers don't add up. The numbers don't add up again. If I'm to believe that Trump, no matter what happens, is so much support for Trump. Like, did this just come out of the air? Like 2020 again? I mean 2022 again. All we heard was red wave, red wave. You know what I mean? And it didn't happen.
They screamed it from the rooftop, and then when that time came, but I think what the red wave ended up doing was because it came just a little bit before the Roe versus Wade judgment came into play, and I think it flipped the switch a little bit, because they were thinking that the country would have been overall for this one sense of this is how it's supposed to be, and I think they got a different spin on it, because everybody was like, yeah, but it's up to choice. It's not about what you think conservative wise. It's basically you're playing a gamble. And I think it flipped the switch a bit to where they were like, oh crap, well, we didn't see that coming, because we all thought everybody was going to vote for conservative. That wasn't the case. Everybody was like, y'all are not doing your jobs. Why are we voting for you? So the country split it down the middle to let them, or explain it to them, like, y'all are not doing what we want, so we're not giving you what you want. And it's the same thing they're moving to the next election to, where nobody's listening to the country anymore. It's all about them. It's not about you. It's the people. We, the people, voted for you. You're not listening to the people. So then so again, what MD says, it might be, it's going to turn out to a low turnout for people voting. I agree with that. I think people are getting so frustrated to the point where they're like, listen, why am I even voting? You're not listening to me anyways. It's all about what you want. So why am I going out there to vote? That's basically
yeah. They're gonna vote local and state. Like, nobody cares about the presidential election. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, pretty much. What you're gonna end up seeing is that nobody cares about the national. It's more about the locals. What affects me in the local, what's gonna happen, and I think that's gonna send a message even more loud and clearer. But it's just like one of them things. They're just gonna do what they want to do at the end of the day, and we're just gonna do what we're gonna do, and we're just gonna keep it a buck like that. That's how it's gonna end up being. It's just.
I was just gonna say, sorry to interrupt, Ricardo. We got 2 videos left. We're obviously gonna go into the State of the Union video, and then of course our nightcap. So I just wanted to get into that right now, okay?
Former President Donald Trump ramping up his inflammatory rhetoric.
The threat from outside forces is far less sinister, dangerous, and grave than the threat from within.
denigrating his political opponents on the left as, quote, vermin during a Veterans Day speech in New Hampshire.
We will root out the communists, Marxists, fascists, and the radical left thugs that live like vermin within the confines of our country.
The White House condemning Trump's remarks, likening them to language used by authoritarian leaders. Quote, using terms like that about dissent would be unrecognizable to our founders, but horrifyingly recognizable to American veterans who put on their country's uniform in the 1940s. White House spokesperson Andrew Bates said in a statement,
Donald Trump made those comments at a campaign rally over the weekend, referring to his political opponents as, quote, vermin. I think it's important to note that Donald Trump isn't just echoing fascist language, which has been kind of the theme of the coverage. He is specifically choosing his words in an effort to dehumanize his enemies and target them for violence. Vermin are animals who cause problems and disease and need to be trapped and killed. That is what you are implying when you call other human beings, your political foes, your fellow citizens, your fellow Americans, vermin. That is fascist language. Using that language is fascist. Sadly, none of this is theoretical or abstract. Political violence has been a through line in the Trump era, starting from his earliest rallies when the ex-president explicitly endorsed and encouraged violence against protesters. At the conclusion of his presidency, he incited a violent mob to sack the Capitol. Recently, he has been fixated on a particularly ghastly example of political violence, the attack on former Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul, last October. Over a year later, the perpetrator of that attack is now on trial, and his testimony has not received anywhere near the enough attention. It deserves that attention because the story of this attack is a story of precisely how right-wing political violence comes about in this country in this moment, in the age of Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. Remember, it was just over a week before the midterm elections last fall when we learned of a violent invasion at the home of then Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi.
82-year-old Paul Pelosi underwent surgery today after being struck with a hammer, suffering a skull fracture in the early morning attack. His alleged assailant, a 42-year-old man, charged tonight with attempted homicide. The intruder allegedly demanding to see the speaker. Speaker Pelosi, second in the presidential line of succession, as we noted, was not home at the time of the attack. And though police say a motive has not been determined, the circumstances of the assault are only deepening the chill felt by many in Congress and what authorities say is a more threatening political climate.
It was an incredibly upsetting situation. It did appear from the very beginning the attack was likely political in nature. And that became increasingly clear as more details started to emerge.
David DePape's defense attorneys called the accused to the stand shortly after 9 a.m. On the stand, he testified about a vast conspiracy he believes involves Hollywood actors like Tom Hanks and politicians, including Representative Adam Schiff and former Speaker Nancy Pelosi's involvement in a child sex trafficking ring and cover-up. DePape broke down in tears multiple times, at one time crying on the stand while saying that the cabal would, quote, burn the country to the ground before they'd spend a day in jail. DePape also testified he believed the Russiagate investigation, looking for connections between former President Donald Trump and Russia, was a hoax and a political lie told by Nancy Pelosi, among others. DePape testified that he went to the Pelosi home with the intent of questioning and recording a video of Nancy Pelosi about what he called lies, and said if she lied, he would break her kneecaps, something he said in previous police interviews.
Well, I was going to basically hold her hostage, and I was going to talk to her and basically film her what I do.
On the stand, DePape said he was surprised Nancy Pelosi wasn't there when he showed up at their San Francisco home in October of last year. He testified that he recalled encountering Paul Pelosi in the bedroom and Pelosi calling the police and meeting the officers at the door. He said, quote, I recall hitting him once. The medical report says he was probably hit more, but I only recall once. I reacted because my plan was basically ruined. DePape also testified that he felt bad after hitting Pelosi, saying until he hit him, they'd had what he called a, quote, really good rapport. DePape also had a list of people he was targeting, including one who was a college professor from Michigan who studies LGBTQ issues and has been the target of online conspiracy theories.
Instead of accepting those facts, we saw this concerted effort from the right wing to obfuscate exactly what happened. We saw all kinds of obfuscation about the assailants' politics. Republican Senator Ted Cruz of Texas signed on to this claim that it is absurd to try to paint a hippie nudist from Berkeley as some kind of militant right-winger. Now, I should note here, thankfully, Paul Pelosi recovered after undergoing surgery to repair a skull fracture. It could have been so much worse. And we should keep in mind that it was the second act of serious right-wing political violence in the run-up to an election in the Trump era. The last midterms, 2018, a man who became known as the MAGA bomber mailed 16 packages containing actual pipe bombs to Democratic politicians and other critics of Donald Trump. He tried to blow them up. But this utterly horrifying story, which serves as a greatest warning to us all, became a punchline on the right among conservatives. Now, I don't actually think they are joking about Paul Pelosi's violent attack because they think it's funny. They are joking about it because that joking signals to their audience that what happened is fine.
Nancy Pelosi, well, she's got protection when she's in D.C. Apparently her house doesn't have a lot of protection.
She's losing the gavel but finding the hammer. Too soon? Is that too soon?
We had no terror during my administration. The only terror we had was Nancy Pelosi, who's a crazed lunatic. She's a lunatic. She is a crazed lunatic. What the hell was going on with her husband? Let's not ask. Let's not ask. I'll withdraw that statement. By the way, she's got a wall around her house. Obviously, in that case, it didn't work very well.
That is what Donald Trump said this past weekend, a few days ago. It's part of the stump speech. He's still talking and joking about the 82-year-old husband of the Speaker of the House being violently assaulted with a hammer to his head, causing a skull fracture.
We're tracking this breaking news for you right now. David DePape has been found guilty in a trial centered on the attack of Paul Pelosi.
Jurors have convicted DePape on charges of attempting to kidnap a federal official and assaulting an immediate family member of a federal official. The 43-year-old broke into the Pelosi's home last year with the intention of holding former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi hostage. She was not home at the time. DePape then struck her husband, Paul Pelosi, multiple times with a hammer, fracturing his skull and injuring his hands and arms.
Okay, so let's review here. So we had a guy show up at the Obama's home that was influenced by Trump. We had a guy show up at the Pelosi's home that's influenced by Trump. We had people go to the Capitol influenced by Trump. There seems to be a trend here. MD, what did we think about this video we just saw?
Yeah, again, it goes back to show you, it's a cult. That's what it is. It's nothing less. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why these people feel the need that they should be warranted or be, justified in the sense of a political action, because it's not a political action. It's an ideological facade of patriotism that don't exist. You know what I'm saying? Show me where somebody done got hit over the head from extreme left ideology. You know what I mean? You can't say Antifa because that's a group thought. You know what I'm saying? So you can't use Antifa. We talking about like somebody, an individual, or I give you a group of 2 or 3 that's done went on, to try to do something of a terroristic nature. You can't show it. And this is why I try to disassociate myself and my viewpoints and my ideology, my philosophy to the right, because I'm not that. You know what I mean? QAnon, Anonymous, and all this type of stuff. Like, these people don't represent nothing political in the aspect of trying to change the ideology of America. They don't. That's not a representation of that. It's just crazy people. You know what I'm saying? Doing crazy stuff. That's all it is. So to try to justify or try to do a sharp contrast, well, say, well, Antifa does this or any other left wing group or Stop Cop City and all of that. That's from a social aspect. We're talking about individuals believing in ideology and going amongst themselves to do something crazy. You only see that on the right for whatever reason. For whatever reason, maybe we need what do you call them people that do the shows? Criminal profilers. Maybe I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know why it's like that, but it is.
All right, Ricardo, what's your point of view?
This is just crazy. The fact that Trump and these other people in the last segment of the video was just like seeing a whole bunch of gross stuff. Need I remind some people that on January 8th, 2011, Gabrielle Giffords, a U.S. Congresswoman, was shot in the head in Arizona and almost died. Need I remind some of these people that on June the 14th, 2017, a gunman walked onto a baseball field in Alexandria, Virginia, and opened fire on a number of people, including Steve Scalise of Louisiana and 4 others. This is not a joke. Like it's like they're taking things too easy when it comes to crazed, fanatical, ideological people that are out there, and there's a plethora of them that are out there.
Don't forget Charlottesville when they ran over there and killed that lady.
It's
Yep, Charlottesville, yep.
This is not a joke. Like, I don't understand why they think that it's funny. So what's it gonna take? Like, the fact that some people could have lost their lives in January 6th, most of those people that were in the Capitol building, to then turn around to be targeting, people's spouses, and then you think that's funny? That's not funny. Need I remind some of these people that are up there joking that these are your actual peers that were representatives that almost got killed in real life. Like, literally, we witnessed Gabby, thank God she's alive, but was shot in the head. And for days we were like, okay, so it looks like she's not going to make it. Mind you, her husband at the time was in space and had to, I think he was back on Earth or something like that because he was an astronaut. Like the things that these people do, like, this is not a joke. When it comes to political ideological things, there are crazy fanatic people that are out there that this is all they think about is I'm gonna take a hammer out somebody's what he said is her or something like that. Like, what are you doing? Like, really, you that nuts in the head to really plan?
So that guy is obviously trying to be a stand-up comedian, and Trump and a lot of these others probably want to do that job because he's like, she gave up the gavel and she got the hammer. Like, that's not funny, man. Like, the guy got hit in the head with a hammer. Why are we making fun of this guy getting hit in the head?
Like, what if what if her spouse had died? Like, and then they're making jokes out of this. Like, these are people that's supposed to know better are making jokes about stuff like that. This is not funny. This is not what happens if this was like, let's go into this further. If this was your grandchild or your nephew or somebody, like, do you think that's funny? These are people's like lives you're playing with here. Like, this is not a joke. Like, there is a certain rhetoric that when you push and you push and you push it even more further, these crazy people that are out there will come out of the woodworks and start doing what they're not supposed to be doing because they think in their frame of mind correct and they're right and they're doing a just cause. No, you're not doing it. Just nuts. Period. This is not supposed to be we shouldn't be enabling this kind of behavior. Again, nothing surprises us anymore. This society has gone downhill for quite some time, but it should not be condoned. I don't think that neither one of this was funny, and it's way too soon. Again, we have not learned a damn thing from anything that we've seen in the most recent past, deplorable things that we've seen other people have done. And mind you, I don't even know how far back we could go to say, like, we could go back as far as when Reagan got shot, but that's a one other thing. So again, like, it's like we're not learning things from history. We're just going about our ways as if, like, this is normalcy. This
Right,
should,
like nothing matters. Like
right.
there's no substance in the world,
Like,
and everything is just wishy-washy, and you're never gonna win that way. Things have to matter at some level.
man, I tell you, like, this is just, I don't even know what to say. I can't even, because the fact that that was the last piece when they were making fun and jokes, like it's like a comedic show that they're at. This is not funny at all. This is just distasteful beyond words. Like, what if the individuals that have been killed, and like, what are you gonna say? Oh no, he was just. Oh, this is not. This should. When you hear me say, when you call out BS, call it out. When you see people, you check. Make sure you let them know that this is not supposed to be the way things are supposed to be condoned or done. This is not acceptable by any means. And this is the same thing that I keep saying, that this party, the conservative groups in general, are doing a whole bunch of bull crap and nobody's checking them. They should be checked. They should be called out on and tell them that it's not the way to go about things. But hey, you have.
Well, that's the voters' job. That's the voters in the primary, so that you can get better candidates on the ballot for the main elections.
Man.
And that's Democrats and Republicans.
Exactly.
Because we're not happy with the selection of choice that we have right now, which is the same that we had 4 years ago. So
swamp, the swamp is getting more filthy by the day. Like, I don't know what.
Yep.
Muddy and disgusted.
Hey, well, that's why you should vote for Trump, because he's gonna drain the swamp. He's gonna try for a second time.
So he says. That's what everybody been saying every time they come.
Yeah.
In.
He'll get it on the second go round.
No, there you go.
I'm still.
So we're gonna get into the nightcap video, the final video tonight. Here we go.
The fact of the matter is, the Republic is in trouble. This country is in trouble. And the time for excuses is over. No more excuses. No more excuses from my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. But most importantly of all, no more excuses from my colleagues on this side of the aisle. We have had a tumultuous year of sorts, but in the eyes of the American people, they've been watching from afar, wondering when this body, the People's House, will stand up in defense of the people who send us here. When are we going to do what we said we would do? When are we going to stand athwart and stop the reckless spending that is bankrupting a country that can no longer issue debt without having Moody's downgrade our rating, without having a treasury auction that is a borderline failure just last week because the people around the world no longer believe in American debt? Because we are now spending so much money and we have so much debt. We have more debt than we've ever had in the history of mankind. We have more debt than we had at the end of World War II after we exercised wars in 2 theaters to free this world of tyranny. And if we have to exercise our defense against foreign enemies today, and we have to ratchet up more spending to defend not just our country, but to defend the very freedoms under which we operate, we don't have the resources to do it. We don't have the supply chains to do it, because we're sitting around here twiddling, talking about setting up offices of equity. That's what we're doing. And my colleagues on this side of the aisle utterly refuse to actually do what they say they do when they're going to go campaign against critical race theory and diversity, equity, inclusion, and campaign against Mayorkas, and campaign against open borders. And what do? They come into this chamber and they vote down amendment after amendment after amendment to cut spending and to stop funding the very bureaucrats that are undermining the freedom of this country. When is this going to stop? When are my Republican colleagues going to put up or shut up? We have bills voting down impeaching Alejandro Mayorkas. They go down. We have bills trying to cut spending, and we have games being played by appropriators right here. Sitting in the Rules Committee night before last, I had appropriators looking at me and talking about the side deals that were cut to keep spending money, to set up funds in slush funds. That's the way this town operates. Slush funds, backroom deals, continuing to spend money we don't have. I am sick and tired of it. I didn't come here for second place. I didn't come here for more excuses. I didn't come here to have the Speaker of the House assume the position and in 17 days pass a continuing resolution off the floor of this House through suspension of the rules. $400 billion, including an extension of the Farm Bill that doesn't do anything about the Chinese Communist Party ownership of our lands. Doesn't do anything to protect small ag and to protect small ranchers from big ag and all of the big corporate adventures getting rich based on the policies from this body. When is it going to be enough? Is $34 trillion of debt not enough? $2 trillion deficits not enough? Another American dying from fentanyl or from cartels? Terrorists coming across our southern border, not enough? Our babies being put in ovens in Israel, not enough? We have the Senate yesterday who chose expansion of the Internal Revenue Service over standing with Israel. And what are my Republican colleagues doing? They are all too happy to have this vote go down today and get on their airplanes and go home for turkey at Thanksgiving. Why aren't we putting another bill on the floor of the House right now and sending it over to the Senate to shove it down their throats, to say that we Republicans stand for cutting spending? We Republicans stand for standing with Israel. We Republicans stand for securing the border of the United States. No, let's just go back and go raise some money so we can do more fundraisers, so we can then try to get elected, so we can come back here and offer more excuses for why we don't get the job done. You know what the excuse will be next year? Oh, well, we won the House and we won the Senate, if we could even do that, but we don't have 60 in the Senate, Chip. We can't do what you want to do because we don't have 60 votes in the Senate. I've heard nothing but excuses for the 20 years that I've either been a staffer in this town, back in Texas watching it closely, or now back as a member. Nothing but excuses. Nothing but empty promises. And the time for those excuses is over.
All right. MD, what's your reaction to that video?
Hey, man, you got a standing theme tonight, man, the dysfunction within the Republican Party. I mean, that's just what it is, you know what I mean? And he wasn't lying by any means. He just want a more clear-cut definition of conservatism. That's all. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't lying whatsoever. He outlined what they should be voting on: standing for Israel, defending the southern border, and blase, all the conservative talking point. But he exposed a lot of his colleagues. Again, go back and do some research on the 5 families of the GOP, and it'll explain everything. Who's got the power? You know what I'm saying? And that's the constant struggle. If we're more focused on a constituency aspect of how they view us versus how we view the constituency, you're gonna look more toward lining your pockets and making sure you got the influence. You know what I mean? That's what a lot of these caucuses and a lot of these committees are doing. So again, that's why I'm just wasting breath at this point. Conservatism is dead. You can yell on the House floor all you want to, but when there's money to be made, the hell with your value system, the hell with your morals. We'll talk about it because that's what our voters want to hear. But when it's time to get the check, it's time to get the check. That's just what it is.
All right, Ricardo.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's beating a dead horse at this point with the points that he brought up. I mean, they ain't listening; they're just ignoring him, in the same length of breath. Look, when this country start printing money for the purpose of just printing to send overseas, you lost them. They ain't coming back. I mean, we are a war triggered country when it comes to anything. That the war mentality will always be there, and so with that, you're going to be spending more and more in terms of R&D for keeping your military at the top of the piece that it's at. There's no way you could slow that down, and when you try to, it affects your GDP because you have to spend for military purposes. Now, do I agree with it? Absolutely not. I think you could try to at least cut the ballooning of what is happening. For years, most people who have been on the conservative group have been saying it. Use that towards better beneficial things for the American people. But again, they're going to use every tactic in the book. Oh, if you do that, then China wins. Or if you do this, then this person wins. And it just keeps going round into this wheel of never-ending nonsense. So I agree with most of the viewpoints that he brought up. Will his party hold each other accountable in terms of what he brought up in terms of viewpoints? I doubt it very much. Money talks when money walks. So money is going to consistently be the main enabler to most of these people. There's lobbyist groups. There's a whole bunch of people that are behind the scenes that are doing things that they ought not to be doing, but they're never brought to light. And then when they do bring to light, it's like it's dismissed immediately, or they're just pardoned or whatnot. So, I mean, I applaud him for, standing up and saying something, but it's a little bit too late for that now. I just don't see them changing anytime soon. So, kudos to him.
Oh, good, Ricardo. I'm sorry.
No, that was it.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, so we've come to the end of the show. I guess we're not going to get a final mic review of the overall show and what his thoughts was. I guess tonight we're not going to get that. So Mike isn't on deck today, but maybe we'll see him next week. So we'll go around and say our final words, and then we'll sign off. So we'll start with MD.
Yeah, great show once again. You know what I mean? Shout out to everybody that came through. Shout out to the TFP family. Happy holidays to everybody. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking forward to the holidays myself, spending time with friends and family. Go rabbit hunting. I want me some rabbit. I've been fiending for it.
So you're pro birds, but anti rabbit.
I ain't that. I'm pro rabbit. I love eating rabbit. It is what it is. It's a country tradition for me and my family. So, shout out to everybody. I hope everybody have a good Thanksgiving or a good Thanksgiving, however you look at it.
Mm-hmm. All right. What are your final words here, Ricardo?
Just wanted to say, GOP do better. Conservative groups do better. I don't know what's gotten into most of y'all lately, but this ain't it. Everybody's watching carefully from the side, the front, the back, and in the middle. And what we're seeing is nowhere close to where you should be at. Do better. That's all I can say. Shout out to everybody who came to listen to us rant and rage and go on and on. We appreciate the love. Tequila, we still have you in our prayers, and we hope to see you soon because we do miss our moderator. Take all the time you need, but we have you in our best interest. And happy Thanksgiving to everybody, but be thankful every day. You don't need a day to be thankful for killing turkeys. And MD, all rabbits' lives matter.
Man, I ain't trying to hear that. I ain't trying to hear that. I only eat rabbit once every year, so I look forward to it. Have you ever had rabbit?
Don't tell me it tastes like chicken, MD.
No, it don't. I mean, it's a game. It's a gamey taste to it, but
it's gamey.
It melts in your mouth, man. we stew it. So that's how we do it. I mean, that's probably the best way to do it anyway, as a stew. But man, I'm telling you, man, good God Almighty.
Hey, when I go to walking in the park, there's like you can see the back ends of houses that I'm walking in the park at, and there'll be a cage. And sometimes there'll be 2-3 rabbits in the cage, and then like a week or so later, when I'm walking again, the cage is empty. So I mean, I thought it was a pet. I thought it was a pet initially, but I was like, oh, wait a minute now.
see now I like the rabbit. Now my ancestors, if you couldn't catch no rabbit, they would go for like a squirrel and stew the squirrel. Like I ain't never ate no squirrel. Don't put that on me. You know what I mean? But you like squirrel. So how we do it is like we eat it for lunch, basically. It ain't like part of the Thanksgiving festivities. We eat it for lunch every year. Why they do it, I don't know. I just eat it. You know what I mean?
Oh no.
But back in the days, if you couldn't catch no rabbit, you'll get a squirrel. Hell, sometimes a raccoon. It all depends. You know what I mean? Now, again, I'm a country Negro. I don't expect everybody to be, on that. So, but you got to try rabbit, man. Rabbit is good as hell. I believe you can buy rabbit now.
You probably can. Yeah, I'm sure you can.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we hunt them with like some bird shot or a 22 or something like that.
I'm surprised you don't eat alligator or crocodile and them stuff.
That ain't my part. I don't live in that country, sir.
Well, I just had gator a few months ago.
Yeah, I don't live in the country of South Florida. I don't know nothing about no alligator. We got alligator in South Georgia too, though.
I had gator mac and cheese a few months ago.
Yeah, I don't know nothing. I'm a mountain man. I don't know nothing about no alligator. We ain't got alligators in the mountain.
All right, so we're gonna sign off. Thanks to everybody in the chat, Maria G. We'll thank Tequila for sure. Prayers goes out to you in this moment of tough times. We'll shout out to Trevor, Mr. Straight Talk himself. Check us next week when we're back for another episode 13 next week. And for my colleagues, Ricardo, MD, of course, shout out to Mike, Mr. Others, Sir Others, never forgotten. We appreciate him as always, and hopefully we'll get to hear him next week. And for everybody else, have a great Thanksgiving and peace.
Peace.
Peace out.
She just said a terrible thing. You know what she said? Shout it out, because I don't want to. Okay, you're not allowed to say, and I never expect to hear that from you again. She said, I never expect to hear that from you again. She said he's. That's terrible. Terrible.